Hi, everyone. Good evening. I don't know where you're calling from. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in today. Hello, everyone. I can see. Hello, everyone. I can see everyone here. Thank you so much for coming in. Let me take off this banner now and see the faces of everybody here. Here we are. Let me see that. Or which of the banners? Okay. Can everybody see me now? I know everyone can see me. I've got 88 people already waiting. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We've got a very interesting topic today, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the person coming in. Now, hello, everyone. Glad to see you here. Good evening, everyone, and to you, host Reina Unso, Art and Lifestyle. Thank you so much for coming in. Good evening, everyone. So glad to have everyone here. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. I've got 232 people who are watching us right now. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. I really appreciate everyone coming in today. Today is a very interesting day. As usual, we hold these live events every Sunday, 6 p.m. GMT, which is the UK time. And we've got a special guest today. So you might see me looking at my mobile phone just to make sure that I get him right on time. We're going to be talking about the COVID-19 vaccine. Do we take it or not? And what we need to know. Now, before I will bring the guest in, first of all, I need to tell you a little bit about the guest. Now, his name is Dr. Aluya. He's a medical advocate who is trained in both pediatric and internal medicine. He's a medical doctor with extensive broad-based training, clinical expertise in over 3 continents. Okay, Dr. Aluya is here now. So here we are. Hello, doctor. Glad to have you here. So
hello. Greetings from New Jersey.
Thank you so much, doctor. So glad to have you here. Thank you so much. So I was just talking about you now. So Dr. Aluya is a medical officer. He was a medical officer under Conditions with the Center for Diseases. I hope I pronounced it well. CDC. New York Quarantine Center, March 2015 to May 2016, where he carried out tertiary screening, contact risk stratification, and disposition of the highly contagious Ebola virus on individuals who have traveled to designated Ebola risk zones. Also, Dr. Nelson is an ambassador for peace by the Universal Peace Federation and is currently the president of New Jersey Medical Association, New Jersey. I hope I got that right. But I want to say welcome here today, doctor. So, doctor has gone off the screen. What happened there? Okay. Yeah, so he'll be coming back again on the screen. Maybe he just went off, but he's got a broad base of medical expertise. And I feel that he's the right person to discuss about this. Do we need to take it or not? Okay, so many people have said they don't need it. Why should I take it? So it's good for us to hear from a medical personnel and find out, do we really need to take this vaccine or not? There's so much propaganda going around, so many things happening everywhere, so many people saying different things. Vivian Shell Charity Group is here. Mega shout out to you. So we want to find out, do we need to take this vaccine or not? Now, Dr. Nelson is back. Okay, Dr. Nelson is a doctor. Doctor, you went up. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's technology. What can you say?
So glad to have you here. So we're just going to go straight in to the question for the day. So let me get it out. Thank you so much for the time. I know you've got a very busy schedule and you are, everyone wants you, but thank God I got you for today.
It's a pleasure. Well, greetings from New Jersey. I know a lot of your guests are in the UK, right?
Yeah, quite a lot of them. But people are watching from UK, the Philippines, Germany, America. We've got 551 people watching so far with us.
Wow.
So quite a lot. It's quite a lot. Everybody wants to know that. So let's start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I guess we'll have a very frank conversation. I will say it. I'm Nigerian and I'm very blunt, so I'll say it in a very Nigerian way, and then we'll be very frank with one another, really, with the whole facts, straight up. No, the Americans would say no BS. So we're gonna tell you the way. Today is gonna be a sitting in the. It's like a kitchen round table, so we're gonna have that discussion. So go ahead.
That's good. So tell us about yourself, first of all.
Well, like I said, I'm Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria, schooled, grew up in Nigeria. My father was a military officer, so I got to move around the whole country. Got to learn the culture, the language of both the North, the East, and the West. I'm originally from, what would I say now? It's funny how they do things in Nigeria. You're born in one place, that's where you claim your father is another place, you claim your father's place. But I was actually born in Benin City, which is now Edo State, and then it was still Delta State. My dad is Isoko, so obviously, no, it was Bendel State, sorry. So my dad is Isoko, now I'm Delta, so I'm from Isoko North. So I'm Delta. And so I schooled all around, went to the Great Ahmadu Bello University where I trained, finished, and then moved to the United States where I trained again and did training in medicine and pediatrics, and became assistant professor at Rutgers University. That's a New Jersey Medical School here in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey, and presently an attending physician at the Newark Bethesda Medical Center in New Jersey as well. So Jersey is home for me, and like you said, I'm a medical advocate. I advocate medically for my people, for people of color and people who have been disenfranchised medically. And we know the whole story of what's going on here in the United States and across the world, especially when it comes to the Black and brown people. I've held a couple of positions. The immediate past president of the New Jersey Medical Association, who's the Association of Black Doctors in the state. As a matter of fact, the first non-Black, non-Nigerian, non-American born to hold that post in the state. And I was the immediate past president of AMPA, which is the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas. And currently, I'm very proudly to say, the president of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee in APAC USA. So our role, and my role at that time together, is to create a platform for policies and politics of the Nigerian Americans here in the United States. We have lived there, contributed. You all see the story in the video that Nigerians are the most educated, most this, most that. But we do have political power and political prowess here in the United States. And that's because we've always lived and worked in silos. Nobody, know what the other person is doing. For some reason, there's just been so very much unhealthy competition among us here in the United States and amongst all Nigerians, basically across the world. But that needs to stop. So our role is to bring all of us together using APAC platform and collaborating with other physicians, other associations of Nigerian extracts and Friends of Nigeria to create the platform where we identify, support, mentor, elevate, and sponsor individuals with the trust and the capacity to lead here in the United States for policies and politics. So some of those names you've seen around who got into political positions here in the United States, NAPAC has been very influential and helpful with that. They did an amazing job. The guys in NAPAC members in Georgia, we say we saved the country because they really did do an amazing job in helping John Ossoff. If you know John Ossoff, if you hear the story, the Senate, so that President Joe Biden can do his work right now. Otherwise, it would have been difficult. And with the other gentleman, I keep forgetting his name, Waldorf or something, they put together that African coalition that helped him get into power. And he was very magnanimous enough to come back to thank the African community and NAPAC for the great work they've done. So all of that on the political space we're doing again. And as I call myself a medical advocate, so I combine medicine and the political and policy aspect of management. So that's where I am, and that's where we're going to push along.
Oh my God. I wish I was in America now.
Well,
I would have come to one political post.
You can come visit.
This is good because I really love that empowerment that is coming from the Black community and NAPA coming to enable them, because sometimes we work in a disassociation. I don't want to use the word disassociation because some people might not agree with what I'm saying. Yeah, we work in silos. We work in it's like no man is an island on their own. We all need to work together as a team, to achieve something. Well, I always tell people, one hand can wash the body clean. Both hands need to be.
Which is a fact. I mean, I say this now, that power, I'm sure a lot of people have heard me say this over and over, and I'll say it every time. Power is most effective when concentrated.
Yeah.
Until you concentrate that power, it's difficult. So how do we begin to concentrate that power? By identifying individuals in different spaces where they occupy and bringing them all up together and creating that linkage, that link. So that link, I mean, you're in UK, London somewhere, and I'm in Hillside, New Jersey, and this is what we're doing. So we must begin to identify those powers, connect them together so that we can become impactful. And for those who are listening back home, I must tell you, there's an awakening and a reckoning in the Black consciousness. So if you do not understand that, please research and know that, look, if you're not part of it, you'll be left behind. So Black is power, and there's no doubt, and we're here and we're coming.
That's good. Black is power. I like that. That's good. I like us coming together. Doctor, it leads me to the next question. You're an assistant professor. We've known for a long time anyway. Okay. Myself and Doctor were cousins, so. And Doctor was.
I haven't seen you in a long time.
A long time. So, Doctor was one of the people that really encouraged me into making sure that I pursue a career very well. And thank God today, I'm a senior consultant in what I'm doing, so it's really good. But Doctor, you look so young. I don't want to say that, but I know, yeah. But
it's the Black DNA. Black don't crack, they say.
It leads me to the next question. Explain to us what you do as an assistant professor of medicine. It's a huge achievement. Politics, medicine.
A professor, basically, as you know, you mean you're attached to medical school. And when you do that, you help train and mentor young ones to achieve their academic, to attain their academic achievement. And that's what a professor basically do. So there's stages of it, to eventually become a full professor. So we just train and teach and mentor young doctors who eventually will take over from us, eventually as we all grow old, so that they can carry on the work that we've done, and not just carrying on, but elevating and escalating to a level where you become impactful, good, and sustainable for human race. Basically, that's what it is. We see what is happening everywhere with technology and science coming into play, and these are people who are working endlessly to ensure that future generations carry this power and the ability. We do it in teaching hospitals all over the country. So that's what we're doing all over the world as well.
Wow, Doctor, I'm very proud of you, and I'm very happy. Happy for you, happy for the Black community, happy for everyone that that is in contact with you. And I see lots of things you do, and I'm glad that you came in today, because there's been so many myths and so many tales and so many things being said about the coronavirus, which is what will be especially the COVID-19 vaccine. This is what we're going to be talking about today, which leads me to my next question, what are coronaviruses and how do they cause terrible diseases?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because most people, the first thing that was a little confusing, and the press has a way of doing things. And again, sometimes it's, unintended consequences, in the sense that they put out information there and people run amok with them without understanding exactly what they mean. Novel virus. What's novel? Meaning is new. But coronaviruses have always been around with us for as far as I'm sure humanity was created. As a matter of fact, if you know the story, the whole, even from the Bible, life began in the water and all of these things that took place. So coronaviruses have been with us. They're, I'm sure thousands of millions of them, as every other viruses that we don't know about. We keep finding out, them every day, delineating what they are, identifying what they are, and of course, giving them names. So we have over 10 coronaviruses that really affect man, 10. And they've been identified all over the world. Now, 3 of them has basically caused serious, terrible diseases. The SARS-1, which is the, one that came out, way back in China as well. I think it was 2002 initially, and then caused some epidemic around, and down the Asia area, but didn't really cause the big problem that we have. And then we had the MERS 2, which is the Middle Eastern respiratory disease that also caused epidemic in the Saudi Arabia or Arabian Peninsula. And then you came the COVID-19, which is the COVID-2 or SARS-2, which was actually identified again coming from China and Wuhan, whether it came from the market, whether it came from the lab, those are all the whole things that are being discussed. But some of the WHO people who came out recently looking at, they couldn't conclude to tell us if it really came out of the lab or if it actually was from the market. But one thing we do know is that it came out from from the bats, and the whole conspiracy theory and everything else has been done. That's because there've been people who are working on bats with coronaviruses for the longest time. I mean, people do stuff to understand diseases and how diseases work and how viruses work, so that they can help us as human beings, live better and do better. But all this study actually came out, of course, when the first SARS came out. So people needed to understand what it is, what the immune system, how the immune system responds to the MERS and the SARS, and followed up, the signs and symptoms, short and long-term complications of the coronaviruses, as well as the MERS, and then how it spreads and everything. So all of that was in play before COVID-19 came about. And of course, it was named COVID-19 because initially it was first identified in 2019. So, and then coming to the coronavirus, of course, it's in the family of viruses called coronaviruses, and in the genus of the, I think, noroviruses. And, there are 4 segments of them. There's the alpha, beta, delta, and the gamma. And the COVID-19 actually belongs to the beta family of it. So, but then we're really new because the RNA structure of the genetic material was really unknown to us yet. So that's why they called it novel, and they're still studying. And of course, we know the story, all the damaging effect is done to our world. So that is where we are. And we're still learning about it. Like I say, COVID-19 is writing its own textbook. So 10, 20, 40, 50 years from now, we'll begin to learn so much about the virus as we move on.
Wow. You know what we never know? Everybody has the focus. Well, I'm not in the medical line. I'm more in health and safety. So my focus was on making sure that the biohazard, which we refer to as coronavirus in our trade, does not impact us. So the first thing we did was to provide the PPE, which in our hierarchy of control is on the bottom. Because so while it was right in the bottom, everybody has to wear their face mask and everything. But our focus mostly in health and safety is to find a way to eliminate it or substitute it, which is not possible. Now, you said we've got 10, and only 3 has shown themselves. So the other 7, we don't even know when they're going to come yet.
Well, I mean, the other ones have been around. Only God knows. For the longest time, the regular cold and cough that you get, little sneeze and stuff like that, you get it, and then, your body takes care of it. Because we've lived with these things forever. And from generations, from you, from Nigeria, from Benin City, and your great-grandfather, if you take the DNA coming from a Bantu kingdom or going down to where the DNA started from. So those inherent immunity have been passed down to you for all centuries that your father and your generations have lived on. So you've built over the time, built immunity to them, so it doesn't cause that much damage to you anymore. Just like the flu virus. The flu virus, caused a pandemic in 1918. It's 100 years plus now. So we've lived with this virus for the longest time. So that's why it's not causing, death as much as it is. Even if here in the United States, the flu still causes about 30,000 people dying every year. But because it's not we've lived with it, we've learned to live with it, and nobody really counts it that much. But it causes death, especially in the elderly and those who have severe chronic medical conditions. So the other viruses just come on. So who knows if they truly do cause of death? But we ascribe it to other things as well.
Wow, amazing. Now the virus it came in, made a lot of impact in London. From the 23rd of March 2020, we had to go off, and then we started coming back again. Now they've recorded about 2.2 million deaths so far, and now the vaccine has come in, and there's so much happening with the vaccine. Which leads me to my next question: is there any risk of the vaccine changing an individual's DNA?
Well, the categorical question, the answer to that is no. It really doesn't. But you see, people tend to play along with languages and terms and terminologies that would buttress and push on their own agenda. I must tell you this: there are people who are called the non-vaxxers, meaning irrespective of what you do, they would never take vaccines, even if it's killing their children. But again, that's who they are. That's where the mindset is, and that's what it is. But the question is, they shouldn't go around pushing their agenda to cause more death and chaos in our world. But the fact is, look, it does not change your DNA. It's an RNA virus. We are made of DNA. But I'll tell you where sometimes they play with these semantics and these words. There's what they call CRISPR. CRISPR is a very long term. I'm sure some of you out there know what it is. So, but I want to use the word, but it's going too technical. But in sheer understanding of what CRISPR is and why, again, they try to use it to manage diseases. There's a lady who's very brilliant. I've forgotten her name now.
Catherine Wood?
Sorry?
Catherine Wood?
Is it Catherine Wood? I can't remember her name now, but she's done a lot of work in that space where they identified. So, in fact, the original study were actually done in some individuals who were in Japan. So where they identified that bacteria, you have viruses and bacteria. As bacteria infect us, like the Clostridia, the pneumonia bacteria, and all those pneumonia infect us, viruses also infect us. But guess what? Viruses also infect bacteria. As they infect bacteria, they kill bacteria. So bacteria were smart enough and say, you know what? We don't want to die. So what do? They found some codes that made them hold the virus within themselves so that the virus will not affect them to a point where it killed them. Because they themselves don't want to die. It's self-preservation. So just like we don't want to die, we're creating vaccines. Bacteria don't want to die. So they created a code among itself where they identify viruses that would break certain DNA DNA structure that they have to create a protective DNA against viruses. So that's the whole study that was initially first done by the brilliant Japanese. But then, this lady, I can't forget her name now, but she and her colleague of her identify that component, that viral DNA, and they used it to unzip DNA. So what they use is like you have a zipper, you put a line, you put a zipper onto it. So what it does is actually breaks the DNA into space so that you can reconstitute that DNA. Specific DNAs, you can reconstitute. They use that virus, which they identify to do that. That's basically what it is. So when people hear these things, and then this is coming up, oh, they're going to use it to change your DNA. No, it is not. If you understand what CRISPR is, looking at CRISPR 9, they talk about it, read it up and hear videos about it and hear what she said. So the essence to use it to help treat diseases. Of course, one of the first applications they were trying to do was for sickle cell. So they can identify sickle cell, unzip that DNA that if you see the CSA on valine replaces leucine in position 6 of chromosome, this, that. So they unzip that and reconstitute it and make it normal so that the individual will not be sickle cell. So that's basically what it is, including using for what do you call it, for cancer and all that. So when people hear all of that and then hear the mRNA and the old technology, they go around, they're going to change your DNA without truly understanding what this really means. So that's why they say knowledge is power. Good knowledge is power, not nonsense one.
Wow. I've been doing some research because I worked with sickle cell patients for a long time, and I noticed that sometimes they do the bone marrow transplant.
Right.
Because in bone marrow transplants, from my knowledge, is like you're transplanting someone who does not have sickle cell into someone who has got sickle cell. How does that tie up with this vaccine?
Well, that's totally a different technology. Bone marrow transplant has been around with us for a long time. Thank God. I tell people this. We should be very grateful that we live in times like this where technology has gotten us this far. But you know what? The world's about to see even much more technology and what that will do. I'll talk about that. Now, bone marrow, I'll tell you this. Looking back, the first recorded epidemic in the world recorded was, I think, in 545 AD. So that's how far we've come. And it was caused by the bubonic plague. And some people say it came out of certain parts of China, but because they found in the year 1300 where the same bubonic plague strain was found in some regions in China. But conclusively, more evidence has shown that it actually came out somewhere around Africa, but then spread into Egypt and then into Constantinople, where it eventually with the king and the guy who wrote it, Jordanian, it's called the Jordanian plague. So that's all stories that came on. And eventually we had the the Black Death that took place in the 12th century and all that, and of course 1918. Now people died. People died in all those epidemics and pandemics that took place. But in 1918, globally, some people estimate 25 to 100 million people died. Wow. And in this country, over 2.5 million people died in the United States. 530 something people died now and was screaming. You can imagine what happened in that time, where 2.5 million people died. Now, in Nigeria alone, I think the population in 1918, they said it was around 30 million. Guess what? Nigeria, 550,000 was estimated to have died at that time. And how many people are dead now? But because of technology, what we see, you and I are able to talk, communicate to each other, spread the word, protect ourselves. That's why we're able to see this reduced amount of death and the number of people who are working endlessly every day as their task for life to save lives and serve property. So that's where we're coming with all of this. Now, coming to your sickle cell analogy, look, I've worked, because I'm also a pediatrician in adult medicine, and I actually created a unique sickle cell clinic at my university. And I've worked extensively with sickle cell because, it's a disease that affects predominantly people of color. So if I'm not involved, then who else? If it's not me, then who will? So, so we, the bone marrow, and people ask me all the time, bone marrow is good. You can use it to reverse. Because what they do, because again, let me make you understand, that cells that we have, all the cells from the red blood cell platelets, the one that fights infection, that protects you from blood clot, carry your oxygen, actually come from the bone marrow, all of them. But they are very original initial stages of those cells that can turn into anything. So if you take those bone marrow, take them off, that can change into any cells because they're still very in their nascent stages. If you inject them, then it can turn into real good cells, and you program the bone to start producing normal cells. So that's where, in a nutshell, that's where it all came from. But however, and I always tell people this, for bone marrow transplant to take place, it's a medical and an ethical issue because, and again, I've seen patients who've had bone marrow. There are sometimes very long-lasting effects that come out of it. because you have to wipe off your entire bone marrow. And as a process, what else are you wiping off? Predominantly, one of the first things they wipe off is the reproductive ability of the individual. So if you're a female, the ovaries, the testicles to produce sperm. So those people, after the bone marrow, it's really difficult for them to have children. Now,
wow.
who do you get registered to do bone marrow? Usually people who are really very sick, sickle cell patients who are really very sick, multiple strokes, often bone, failures, infarcts, terrible sick individuals. So to protect them or to save them, you get the bone marrow. But then there are other, lasting effects down the road. So that's what you do.
Well, it's as if I've been to school right here. Thank you so much, Liz. I'm hearing it from you. Based on, I know quite sure that research would have been carried out. What percentage of Black or ethnic minority were in the research of this vaccine, and how do we know it is good for us before we go take it?
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll answer this question this way.
Yeah.
When artificial intelligence meets the trust and irrefutability of blockchain in the speed of 5G, that is the God complex. And I'll say it again, and there's a reason why I'm saying it.
Yeah, say it again.
When artificial intelligence meets blockchain, or meets the trust and irrefutability of blockchain with the speed of 5G, that's the God complex. Now, why am I saying this? 5 technologies would affect how you and I interact with one another and in our environment. And we must begin to pay attention to those. And for those who are home, listen and listen good. Those 5 technologies are: 1, artificial intelligence; 2, 5G; 3, blockchain technology; 4, cryptocurrency that comes out of blockchain; 5 is the mRNA technology that we're going to talk about today. So those 5 things will affect how you and I will interact with one another and how we interact with our environment. And we must know that as Black people. Coming with your question when you said that, and I'm saying, and I'll be very frank, I said we're going to talk like we're in the kitchen today. Look, for those who are in the religious environment and the complex, look, these are things you yourself as pastors or imam or prophets or whoever you are, you must go and learn and study these 5 things. Because if you don't, you'll be doing your family, your congregation a huge disservice, big time. Because the technology is fast coming and it's going to change our lives so quickly. I mean, 5G, they're going to talk about that. They're still working. The people are beginning to work on 6G already. But that will not come in the next maybe 20 to 30 years. There are people working on that already to create a 6G. But, you see what's happening with the world, China, Russia, and US trying to fight who control 5G and all that. There's a reason for that. Now, the question is this: what are we as Black people doing about it? What are we doing? What are we watching? Are we just sitting there and playing, in a very common Nigerian say, tumbo or so? Or are we joking about this? I'm being frank. You understand? When people are sitting down, I mean, look at UAE sitting down together and bringing and taking, stuff to space, looking out towards Mars and other things, being led by women. Look at what the UAE did. A small country led by women, and then we're sitting down repressing our women in our communities. Are you kidding me? And we have the brightest minds and the youngest population of Earth. And all the it's just wasting away, fighting with strife and ethnicity and religion and all that nonsense, at this stage. I mean, come on. And we sit down here hoping to provide and say we want the liberty that we truly want, So again, coming to this, I'm going a little bit of tangential there, but that brings out the question of what you just said. How many of us are in this study? And I'll tell you what we did here in the state of New Jersey. I think it was in September, where my great friend, Honorable and very present Adekoya, we came together and we talked about the reason why we need to put something together to get our community informed about this, because we knew that the Moderna research was going on. It was actually going on at my university, and we knew that. And we knew some people who were doing it, who was working on it. So what did we do? We said, you know what? For us, we know that it's going to come. I knew it was going to come to a point where they'll be giving these shots to us. And I was using all the medicines that we take, from antibiotics to all those high-profile meds. How many of us were present in those researches? If you look, usually less than 1%. I mean, Black people across the globe. So, and I knew this was what was happening. So I said, you know what? Let's come together. Let's ask those guys who are doing research right now on the Moderna. Let them come tell us how many of us Black are in that research. Where did they get them from? How did they get them? What's the qualification and everything else? So we put this Zoom together. I think it was sometime in September. I remember it was on the Thursday night. And we got the CEO of the University Hospital, Dr. Awusike, and some other brilliant doctors who were working on the Moderna studies. And we called the African, Medical Association, AMPA, the Ghanaian Medical Association, the Caribbean Medical Association, the Jamaican Medical Association, the New Jersey Medical Association. We called all of them together, including the clergy, the imams, all of them, pastors. Let us come sit and ask them tough questions. Where are they getting the people who are in the study? How many of us were in the study? So that we get to know how well we can begin to see if we need to accept this vaccine when it eventually comes out. And it did come out. So, but what we found out at that point in time, we were just 10%, roughly 10%. The research was still going on. So we had a discussion of, okay, if this is what's going on and now people are not involved in this study, what best can we do? What do we need to do so that we get more of our people in these studies? So the conclusion then was that, look, we need to start talking to our churches and mosques to let our pastors and imams know what's going on and other religious body so that they can get their congregations informed better to know that these things are coming, they need to get involved. 2, they need to reach out to medical associations like, AMPA and other African-based organizations or Black-based organizations so that they can speak in that community they need to do this. And 3, reach out to doctors, especially Black doctors. If your Black doctor tells you this is good, and you trust him, of course, you'll be willing to get into research. So that's what we did. Now, if you fast forward, when the results came out, it was not surprising. Roughly about 10% of us were in this study. Well, 10% is not too bad. At least much better than the 1% that we get in everything else. So, that's where we are. And that's why it's important that we begin to tell our people, look, get this vaccine. It's important so that down the road, it does not become a Black man's disease eventually. Because when everyone is protected and we're not protected, right now we know that we are the ones who are faring worse percentage-wise with this virus. Down the road, when the others all get vaccinated and we're not, guess who will die eventually in another 2 to 3 years?
That's it.
Blacks. So, and then the narrative will now change, and the press will play on that narrative. It's a Black man's disease eventually. So we need to stop that, and that's why we're having this conversation.
Wow, man, Doctor, I'm so glad I brought you here. There's so much that needs to be said, I've heard so many things, but I remember I was doing my master's in 2014-15, and I quoted a pastor as one of my assignments. I failed it.
Okay.
I went to the lecturer and said, why did I fail? The question the lecturer asked me was that, is the pastor an authority in that field? I couldn't answer. He's an authority in the Bible. He's an authority in church group, but he's not an authority.
We presume.
Yeah, but he's not an authority.
We presume.
But he's not an authority in medical
because
things.
Again, what's the agenda? We need to understand that people always have an agenda. What's the agenda that individuals push on in whatever they do? We need to understand that. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. We've got over, in fact, we had about 700 and something people watching. We've got 537 people now hearing this information. My message is that what you've heard here, take it to your world and use it. Preach in your word, preach it to people, let them know that this thing is real. Because like you said now, Doctor, in 2 to 3 years' time, they'll say it's the black man's disease because the black man or the black woman or the black individual or the ethnic minority refuse taking it. But let's go to the next question. What's the risk of other diseases or autoimmune diseases coming out of this vaccine use?
Well, I'll tell you that right now, straight up, we don't know that yet. Autoimmune disease, you see, it's sad in the sense that if you look around the globe, autoimmune disease, what does that mean? It means that your body, auto meaning automated, immune, your immune system, meaning your immune system is fighting itself. So what really that means is if you have a trigger and the trigger comes out, of course, your immune systems are like, you say the police, you call the police on, and then, the body cannot fight the thing completely. Then you call the National Guard, like we have here. That's the second stage. In Nigeria, they call it the mobile police. When they go and get stuff, and the immune system is still there. And the mobile police don't come out so quickly. The police come out quickly. Mobile police or the National Guard comes in, so much with a huge much effort. Now, if they cannot handle that problem, and the problem persists, so what do? You call the army, you call the military, right? Now, the military, it takes the time to mobilize them and push them all out, right? Like in Nigeria, you call the soldier. Now, when they're out, meaning your immune system is ramped up to that level. I'm just giving an analogy, people understand it better. When they're ramped up to that level, it's hard to call the mobile police or the military out. But then when they come out, it's hard to pull them back again. So what do? They'll all be out there circulating. And they're circulating, there's no job for them to do. What do you think will happen? They become rift, strife, and conflict with the regular people and regular citizens. That's exactly what your immune system does. So when it ramps out all that, big guns, and then there's nothing else to fight, it begins to fight itself. Just like the military will start fighting the citizens of the country when there's nothing else to do, because they are not supposed to be out there fighting, So, but that's basically what it does. So it begins to fight itself, and that's what autoimmune disease is. We have a few of them. Rheumatoid arthritis is one. Lupus or systemic, lupus erythematosus. You have, sarcoidosis is part of it as well. We have, chalk straws, all of those, names that are out there. So the immune system ramps up to fight itself. Now, with COVID, people who have risk for immune disease die. But then now, with the virus, like I said earlier on, there are acute or short-term side effects and then long-term side effects. And we knew some of these things from the measles vaccine, virus that are out there. Measles will be with us forever. Now, somebody gets measles today, they get a fever, a rash, whatever. Sometimes they get a little bit of organ failure. But then again, the virus can go everywhere, from the head to the brain to the eyes to the testes, everywhere. So also this virus. We've heard the virus goes down to the semen, where men were really, really afraid I'm wondering what's happening. People was going after and all that. So, but then again, the virus is just here about a year. We don't know, and we know that viruses down the road, 5, 10 years from now, or 3 years, can cause what they call encephalitis, inflammation of the brain, and inflammation of the heart, the linings of the heart, the fluid that surrounds the heart, even the lungs, and even the muscle fibers itself of the heart. So all of these things can happen. Everybody's still keeping an eye for a lot of all these things. It's still new. So again, that's where the research is out there. We don't know yet. So, but we're going to keep an eye on everything else. So, but one of the things that we really do know is that after the COVID, it takes you sometimes 2 weeks or 3 weeks, sometimes a month for some people to recover from the fatigue that takes place. In fact, that fatigue, some patients of mine, people have called, it causes sleep. I got sick from the COVID myself, and I understood what happens, why people die from that virus. You understand? Until I got it, I've heard patients, I took care of patients, but until you face it yourself, you never know. So the fatigue was something else. I've never seen anything like that before. And some people, I call it the sleep of death. And that's why people who died from COVID at home, a lot of them died alone because there was nobody to help them, keep them hydrated, keep them, feed them and, help them out with stuff. So I used to tell people, please, if you have the COVID and you have a family member who lives alone and has COVID, please reach out to them. If you can, try and ensure that they get fed and, get hydrated. So to your question, We don't know that yet. Hopefully, we'll stick an eye out. Make sure it doesn't.
Man, when I had COVID in December, my wife knew something was wrong because I'll sleep so long. That's for hours. When I wake up, I want to sleep again. Then when I was now recovering, I could sleep for like 4 or 5 hours. I'm a very active person. I did a video on that. Yeah, so anybody can watch it. No, but I was always eating. I'll wake up in the morning, make sure I brush, have my shower, make sure someone is always with me. Very bad. So what's the future of medicine, viruses, and technologies? You've said something about the blockchain, the
artificial intelligence, and blockchain, and all that. Yeah, well, in reference to that, taking it to what I said earlier on, it's just, if you understand what artificial intelligence means, meaning machines are going to begin to almost find ways to think for themselves, and create other machines that most likely would think for themselves as well. They begin to write codes for themselves. And that's and it comes down to machine learning. I mean, it's on here already. We're doing it on a daily basis, and so many things in process. But you see, as we move on, we're going to begin to merge, these things will begin to merge completely into one another. So you're going to find out that now we're talking about, machines trying to diagnose, diseases. And of course, they'll do it faster. They'll do it a little more accurately. I mean, there are no emotions in it. Or whether you're black or you're white or you're my cousin, or those things don't matter with machines. They'll tell you what to do. Very blunt. So they're going to do it very accurate, and they're very objective. So I will begin to rely on those things, those tools, on a daily basis. Because again, there's a whole lot of mistakes that take place in the medical field out of emotions. The doctor is fatigued, he's tired, he has worked for 5 hours. Machines don't have that. You understand? So again, we begin to learn to trust those machines. Now, when I talked about the trust and the irrefutability of blockchain, if you understand what blockchain is, it's a big ledger where people can put information and it's confirmed by everybody to make sure it's true, and you cannot remove it, and that's the irrefutability of it. Now, and I say the word, it's a big blackboard. Everybody go, you write something, you go, you confirm it, I confirm it, the whole world confirms it. But once it's written there, you cannot take it out, and it's there forever. You understand? And it's done in encryption so that you cannot break into blockchain. You can't break into it. So, and that's the beauty of it. So you can imagine, and then you now bring 5G with the speed at which it does it. So you have the machine that has the ability to do this code for itself, done it with in a space of the trust of blockchain that cannot be removed at the speed of which 5G can do it. I mean, what's there? That's phenomenal. That's incredible. So that is one aspect of medicine that we're coming into. And then we'll talk about precision medicine, meaning we talked about the CRISPR earlier on. And we saw the issue of where I think a Chinese gentleman who used CRISPR technology to first give back the genetically altered girl that was born in China a few years ago. I don't know if you heard about that. If you didn't, go back and look it up. I mean, it was amazing. So they zipped up a DNA, reconstituted based on what they want, the color, the eye, everything else, and zipped it all back and formed her and reimplanted her of that fertilized ovum into the mother, and she gave birth. That was done. There were ethical issues with it and all that. So that's the future of medicine coming up. So we're talking about precision medicine where I can take your blood, look at it, spin it around, and then use the technology to tell me, hey, no, you know what? You guys use Tylenol in there. I don't know if you know Tylenol. No, you use Panadol. So you have Panadol or Tylenol for pain. Which one would do you better? You understand? I can say, Dr. Oji, from your analysis, or if I take, let me say, blood pressure medicine. If I'm going to give you blood pressure medicine, I can do your DNA and I check it and say, from your analysis, guess what? Calcium channel blockers like Novask is not good for you. Enalapril is better. It protects your kidney better. It protects your heart. And if out of those ACE inhibitors or the enalapril, this particular is better, and this dose is better for you. Because beyond this, you cause more damage. So that's where we're coming with technology, with all that. So it's precision medicine. And then we can also get a profile of the disease, how much the medicine, the side effects that it might cause to you. So if I have two medications that will really be good for you, but if one will cause more side effects than the other, I'm not going to choose that. I'm going to choose another one that will cause less side effects. So those are the areas we're heading towards, and that's where we're going. And then, of course, viruses. I can say, you know what? Look, measles would affect, it killed 3 of my children. And because of that, I don't want measles to affect my child. So you know what? The DNA that determine the receptor site, for instance, like COVID now, the DNA that determines the receptor site, like for the COVID, is the what do you call ACE2 receptors. I can now use my CRISPR or any other technology to unzip that part, remove that DNA for the receptor that COVID loves to attach, and reseal it with better DNA. So COVID can come and can touch that. So, but these things are there because recently we heard about a study that was done by some brilliant people in Boston, Massachusetts, where they did some studies on people, individuals, in Democratic Republic of Congo, where they found out that those individuals there cannot get HIV. They don't. And they call them HIV protectors. If you go back and read them, they call HIV, it was just sometime last week. The research was up there. So, and that's again, because people are constantly working. So, HIV receptors, why? Compared to the former, receptor that we know about HIV and all that enzymes. But now these are the technologies that's coming up. So, identifying those individuals, breaking their DNA and receiving it up so that they'll protect them. So that's where technology is coming, and we're managing and marrying these technologies to protect ourselves as we move on as individuals.
Oh my God, so much to learn here. Now, once again, Dr. Aluya is a medical advocate who is trained in both pediatric and internal medicine. He's a medical doctor with extensive broad-based training, clinical expertise in over 3 continents. And Dr. Aluya has been involved in so much research. This is just amazing. But you see, one thing I always want to find out is this. Where is Africa and the Black race in healthcare? How are we managing disease and pandemics in Africa? Where is the place of the Black race?
I'll tell you this, and that's why when I said what I said earlier on, I said those 5 things. I said it purposefully for Africans and all of you who are Blacks out there listening. And I said it for you, your children, and your generations coming. And I'll use this analogy. They always say that, again, we're in the kitchen table, that no matter how bad the drought is in the forest, the lion will never eat grass, right? That's what they always say, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the lion teaches its cub how to hunt by example, right? So it teaches the cub to hunt so that eventually the cub will learn how to hunt and hunt by itself. But guess what will happen? The cub that refused to learn how to hunt, what will happen to that cub? It would die of starvation because it can't eat grass, right? So Africans, and those of you who are out there, if you do not learn these things and how technology is working, that's going to affect us. It's a disservice to us as an entire Black race, and we're going to die of our ignorance. Of course, you know what the Bible said. My people perish for lack of knowledge, right? So again, that's why I said what I said. And often enough, we are afraid of what we don't understand or know. But I always tell people this: we must make people understand. Because if you understand, then you're most likely to accept it. But we should not be afraid of technology. We shouldn't. As Black people, no more. I know there are political issues and all the ravaging effects and the things that they've always said. But I say this, that technology was used to subjugate and colonize Africa. Technology, again, will be used to liberate Africa, period. So for us to truly liberate ourselves, we must embrace, understand, and accept technology. And that's where we are. So, and I'll say this to each and every one of you out there, you must begin to take charge and leadership of your individual spaces and find solutions to the problems that come out of it. So if you're an engineer, find problems that Africans or Black people get when they're in engineering. If you're in tech, find problems for it and find solutions to those problems. If you're in healthcare, if you're a doctor, if you're in law, whatever you are, if you're in accounting, you have to do that. So where we come, and that's where somebody like me, and thank God with you, creating this platform for us to talk. And people listening out there. So they must understand this and begin to wake up to take charge and leadership in their individual spaces. But again, like I said, they must begin to collaborate together. Because you're a doctor and you're in tech, we can come together so that we'll find solutions that I feel is in healthcare, so that we can begin to write codes. If you're a code writer, come, let's talk. So that we'll write codes that will help protect us, or genetic materials that will protect us for these things. Look, I'll tell you this. Do you know that the Moderna vaccine, to safeguard the Moderna vaccine so that people will not steal the Moderna vaccine, it was written in blockchain technology, that code. You understand? How many doctors who know code writing? They don't. So they collaborate with people who did that. So that's why I call on all of our Africans out there, no matter where you are, use your brilliance, intelligence, because we're not bereft of skills and ingenuity. It's just that we don't recognize or celebrate one another when we do see them. So we must begin to recognize one another, identify them, collaborate, and put our forces together so that our efforts will become impactful. So again, advocating for one another, ensuring that we fight for ourselves and fight for what belongs to us and where we stand everywhere you are. Because again, this is about the Black race, irrespective whether you're Japanese Black, Korean Black, Brazilian Black, Korean, Jamaican Black, or African or Nigerian Black. If they do not respect the African, they will never respect you, period.
My God.
If they do not respect the African, they will never respect you. So it's time that we learn all of this together and put our resources together. And when I say resources, I mean time, money, and our intellectual capacity. And that's all where we'll truly begin to liberate ourselves. So if we bring this all to everything that affects us, from agriculture to law, to music, to everything, and even to health and fighting pandemics, that's how we must. So the discussion now, we let those who are in the medical field sit down and begin to write proposals and coming together how best we can protect ourselves for the next pandemic or for the next epidemic, because it's coming. It's inevitable. It's coming. So how prepared are we? You know, and that's why again, they used to say, oh, if you want to hide something from Black man, you put it in the book. They don't read. But now we read. And it was some done on purpose. Now we read. Right? So we read it now. But the question is, we do not associate. That's the problem. But initially, that problem became settled in the 1960s, when if you look all around Africa and the world, the Black world, what was happening in 1960 in the Black world? Blacks were coming together. And in Africa, you had independence. In the Caribbean, you had independence. Here in the United States, you had what? Civil rights. So that's the association that happened in the 1960s in the world across the Black continent. So like I said, when I started, there's an awakening and a reckoning in the Black consciousness. It's happening again. So we are not just learning to read and associate, we're learning to collaborate now. And that's where the fear is coming from other races. And then we'll begin to look dangerous. But then we're here. The world will only be better when the world is better for the Black man, period.
That's it. Wow. Huh. Doctor, I feel like inviting you to my church to come and preach.
I told you I'm a medical advocate.
you know, when I came into UK, I had a first degree in Nigeria. I came into UK, I couldn't get a job because they said my accent, I couldn't speak, I couldn't talk like them, and I wasn't, you know, so many excuses came. But I said, you know what, I'm going to train. I trained myself as a health and safety consultant. I got to the top of my career, and I'm still going. I was telling my wife today, I said, I'll become a director, associate director of a company. I'm right on top of my career. Then I looked at it. I went for a meeting in 1 year, over 200 meetings. I saw just about 4 or 5 Black people. I was wondering, why? Am I the only one in this profession? Then I started a training firm in UK. where I train Africans who have come in, Indians who have come in, and I'll train them, give them, because when you're looking for a job in UK, the first thing that comes out is you haven't got the practical experience. I will train them and I'll take them into the practical field, get their CV ready, and push them into the job. I said, the
So
more
that's
people we
exactly
have
what
there,
I said. That
yes,
you're taking charge and leadership in your space
that's it.
and creating the platform for others to grow. Because look, leaders are not just great because they do great things. Leaders become greater because they create a platform for others to become great, and that's what it is basically. So kudos, you're doing great work, and I hope other people will listen and do the same and take charge of their spaces.
Yeah, they will. And one thing I noticed when I bring these people together is that segregation is still there. One wants to be better than the other. I tell them, listen, we are one. If I'm looking for who's going to be better, then we'll produce something that will make you better. But we are one. But now let's go. Yeah, it goes to the next question. How should Africa and the third world countries be more prepared for a situation like this in the pandemic? I know you said something like collaboration, if we come together, that human error through that CRISPR, who is CRISPR is a genetic modification company in Switzerland. They're all coming together, but how can we Africans come together? You said a little bit about it, but throw more light on it again and there.
Well, again, identifying who we are and what space that we're working on. And I met a gentleman who is doing some work on, he's in Kenya right now, doing some work in identifying, delineating the Black DNA. Of course, we know history has said it, and science has proven it. Even if the Chinese tried to remove themselves from the Black DNA and the Black gene by whatever they did, but eventually came around again and said, you know what, all the Chinese people came from Black people, irrespective of what it is. So, but, Blacks are the original DNA, and every, humanity race started in Africa. So we can't, nobody can contest that. So, but what he's doing is to break down the Black DNA and delineate it. We know what happened, I think, way back in the 1980s, where the Genome Project took place, and we're trying to identify the complete genetic structure of humans, of man. But if you look down deep into the politics of that study, look, they missed over 3 million genetic codes for the Black man. Why? Because how many of us were in that study? How many of us were involved in the Genome Project? How many? So again, these are the things that we must know, but we are beginning to understand some of all these things because we're not present in the beginning, but we begin to get into the space where we begin to show ourselves. Now, for us to get to show ourselves, we must be prepared. We must be prepared. We often would say, we asked to be at the table, But when you get to the table, what are you going to offer, right? And that's the problem often enough with the Black race. We're not prepared for most of the things we clamor for, or shout for, or scream for all the time. We want to get there, But when we get there, what are you to offer? And what's the message you're taking there? Is it for yourself or for the people who you represent? We must begin to understand that. And some of you have heard me say this, that for you to be truly impactful and to get to be prepared, you must take two-step approach. And I call it the insider and outsider approach. The insider approach, look, you must organize, identify who you are, what's the mission that you're going to do, who are the people who are with you, who understands the message, who will stay on message, run with your message, and be ready to die for your message or for that message. Gather all the resources that you need. Again, when I say resources, time, money, and intellect. Some people can provide their time, they don't have the money or the intellect. Some people have the intellect, they don't have the time or the money. And some people don't have the time, don't have the intellect, but they have the money. So we must identify each and every one of those people and bring everybody together, right? And that's who we are. And identify those who are strong and those who are weak. And those who most likely be people who will betray us even as well, because we'll always have the Judases amongst us. But fine, they're all family. We're all together in this. But then, making them understand why this message must go on and why we must be effective. That's the insider approach. We must organize first. And the outsider approach is identifying those who are out there who see the need for us to exist cohesively and better for everybody. Like I said, life on earth will not be good until it's good for the African or the black man, period. So, but for us to do that, you must bring something to the table where you are approaching somebody not in a state of subservience, but of equal authority. Because if you're organized, you will be recognized. If you're organized, you will be recognized. And in that stage, you'll be able to form associations and find collaborative efforts, right? And be able to network better with individuals and identify those who would most likely be your friends or those whose interests fall in line with your interests. Not necessarily because they may be your enemy, but their interests fall in line with your interests as well. So go ahead. But you do it at a level of intelligence and not in subservience. Because when you don't, you come like a mediocre and you'll be ridiculed. And that's why a lot of times they don't take us seriously and they don't respect us. If you don't respect something, how would you, play or associate with something you don't respect? So that's how Africans must begin to get themselves ready for this. And holding people accountable, holding your people within you accountable, and holding people in the outside engagement accountable, as well as providing the options for them to work upon. You understand? And holding people in power, responsible as well to the task that they've been given, not just to go there and embezzle anything. So it starts from inside, within your family, on the outside. I mean, you hold this African CDC responsible, the Nigerian CDC responsible. And if you do not hold that, but we must also, like I say, organizing also involves ingenuity. Look, all African countries cannot do them alone. If you take Nigeria, the Nigerian government do not have the capacity or the bandwidth to fix our problems. And that's why those at home, and predominantly those of you and I who are in the diaspora, we must come together, collaborating like you are doing right now in the UK and here. We must begin to speak to one another, find the things that would hold, so that we also can provide the services for them back home. It's not because you left Africa and you live in the UK and you're living in a fine house and driving a Range Rover and all that, you think that's the end of life? No. Look, again, if they don't respect the one back home in Africa, they will never respect you. Until we do that, we must begin to stand up so that 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, we will not begin to ask them to take their knees off our neck, if you understand what I'm saying.
Very well. This is amazing. Okay. Doctor, I'm going to the next question. A predominant one here, and it's just spreading around. 5G. 5G mobile networks do not spread COVID-19. How true is this?
Come on. I talked about 5G earlier. It doesn't. It really doesn't. They are in two different spaces. I mean, people who did not understand what 5G is and the technology involved in it just want to use 5G to buttress what they're saying, and they think, oh, the 5G is going to alter your DNA and all that. Well, I mean, we've talked about ultraviolet radiation and all that. Look, the phone that we carry, this thing emanates radiation every day. The TV that is in your house, the phone if you look at everything else that's around you, it emits radiation every day. But how much of this radiation is actually getting into you and altering your DNA? Not really, not much. I mean, when microwave came out, people were afraid to use microwave in their houses. But look around the world right now, almost every home, especially in industrialized, family or middle class families, they'll have microwave, and they cook with microwave, eat with microwave on a daily basis. So how much? But again, the jury's out there. Do these things alter your DNA? Well, some people have spread those words and tried to buttress what they see and conspiracy theories and all that. Look, there are so many things that will alter your DNA far better than the 5G or whatever it is. And I'll tell you this, that sometimes, people pander and push on things just to provide, solidify their facts. And that's why you hear conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Though 5G does not. I think I had the thought process where some of these things are coming from. Really, that 5G would do this, but no, COVID-19 is a structure of its own. But one thing, again, people misunderstand stuff and read them so aberrantly. I'll give you an example. A lot of my patients come in and they laugh when they say this, and I laugh with them as well. When they come, oh doc, I was having pain here, and I looked and I saw, I having pain, so I Googled it. And Google told me, and then they say, Dr. Google. I said, yes, Dr. Google. I said, oh, it may be cancer. You understand? So again, people read stuff that they don't understand, So, but where some of those things are coming up from is a term called epigenetics. Epigenetics is a term where your environment and the things around you alter phenotypically your DNA. It does not change the structure of your DNA. It changes how your DNA is expressed. That's what it is. Epigenetics. I'll give you a typical example. You live in Nigeria, you get the sun, UVB light that's protective, protect against COVID and all that. It protects you against, some other autoimmune disease and stuff like that. Then you get a lot of vitamin D and all that, and then you come to America. You live in New York, where a whole large time of the year the sun is not there, so your vitamin D levels suppresses. The vitamin D you get from the sun, the UVD, all the things that are protecting you is not. And then 1, 2, 3 years later, boom, you come up with diabetes. And not just that, you're eating the highly synthesized food that we eat here in developed countries. And then 2 years later, diabetes. And you ask them, is there diabetes in the family? No, we don't, nobody. I actually had a young man recently, last week here, young 30-something-year-old. And he was so bewildered and disturbed that he has diabetes. And there's none in the family. So the environment alters how your DNA is expressed, not the DNA itself. So when they talk about that, you hear, epigenetics, people run with it and put 5G into it and mix it up and then buttress their point. So that's where all of this is coming from. So now it doesn't.
Oh my God. So it's okay.
See, I hope they understand that.
Of course they do, because it's so easy, When it happened, I'm a health and safety consultant. I took somebody from O2 and we went on a mast, and then he did a test using his meter. The distance that from the mast to the meter couldn't even read anything. He took it further and said, so if he couldn't read anything, very low reading, not even up to 2 or even 1, how could it affect the DNA of someone? But, and I wrote that in my report and I sent it to the client, and that was it. But one question I want to ask now is this. How? They said that somebody's asking here, said, my own query is, which vaccine should I take and for which virus? If there is 10 viruses or 3 now.
Well, I mean, there's one virus right now that's killing people, and that's, SARS-2, COVID vaccine. It attaches to your, what do you call it, ACE receptor cells or ACE2 receptor cells, and that's why. I mean, why is it killing certain people and not killing other people? Again, it's based on your genetic makeup, how much, because again, if you have, let's say, I'll give you a typical example. If you have 5 ACE receptor cells, you have 5 viruses, it will attach. But if you have 3 receptor cells, only 3 viruses would attach. If you have 2, only 2 or 1 would attach. So somebody who has 5 and somebody has only 1 or 2 receptor cells, they will not be as sick the same way, basically, if you understand what it means. Now, the issue with people with chronic medical problems, why they're sicker, is because when you get sick, like diabetes, heart failure, dialysis, chronic kidney disease, liver disease, all of those things, that the ACE receptor cells are upregulated, meaning you have increased amount. So if you used to have 5, 10, the body, in wanting to protect itself, before would produce more of those receptor cells, so the virus has a more way of attaching to that. So, and they attach from the airways down to the GI tract and everywhere else, because those cells are upregulated in those areas where you have more disease. And again, those receptor cells are higher in men than in women. And that's why you see two people, a husband and wife, go into the hospital. The wife walks out and she's doing fine, and the man is in the ICU intubated. Women's DNA is stronger. The women's DNA is stronger. I mean, it's only expected to be stronger. You know why? Because women are the heritage, are the custodians of our heritage. If women die and they go off, who are we left with? So nature had to protect them. So it down-regulated, you know, and among the young ones, because again, as we grow up with age, those receptors are higher, and as you grow up in age, you tend to have diabetes, high blood pressure, and all that. So of course, those receptors are higher. So that's why you have all of those. Now, coming to the vaccine, which one should you take? Well, like I said, you have one coronavirus right now. So in plain language, anyone that's available, you can take. Anyone that's available, you can take. And it's fine. You see, we take here, and I don't know if they do that in the UK as well, the flu vaccine every year. And the flu vaccine every year, when it comes out, look, sometimes it's just 25% coverage, 25% coverage. You cover it 25, sometimes 45, sometimes 50, depending on the strain that were picked. Because every year, what they do, they pick up the first 4 strains that cause disease within the last 2 to 3 years. You understand? They identify all of those. Those are the things that put into the flu vaccine for the next year, so that it will protect you. You understand? So, but even then, it doesn't give you the 60, 70% or the 90, that the Pfizer or the Moderna covers right now. It really doesn't. So if you have, and this is the first time we've had the capacity where, again, with technology, has been able to produce vaccines that are this level. I mean, unparalleled, unprecedented at this level. So look, again, we should be grateful we're living in times like this. And this technology has made it possible for us to do this. So we should be happy we're doing this. So anyone, the least one right now is 65%, and 70 and above. So look, take them, anyone that's available to you, so that your body will produce immune response to protect you. And I'll tell you this, people don't understand that. If you remember what I said earlier on, that the things that protect you from all the other coronavirus that gave you the cold and all, is from your DNA, from your parents, from your great-great-great-grandma, from the Ogiso time, if you know. From those who are from the Benin Kingdom, from all that time, all that DNA. Because again, especially for women, and that's why important, that when you're born, as the baby is inside your body, inside your stomach, you're passing your DNA, because DNA has memories. It really does. And it's so funny. We've always said that, but then science has proven we have T memory cells. They have memories. So those memories are the things you pass down to your children from generation to generation. So all the code, whatever you get, you're going to pass it down to your children so that they can be able to protect themselves. So when you get the coronavirus vaccine, you're not just protecting yourself right now. You're building up immune response and antibodies that you're going to pass down to your children and their children's children in the village, so that they also will be protected. That's why.
Man, thanks so much for that, because man, there's so much here. I don't know. I'm going to leave this video on, then I'll now cut it into different sections so that people can listen to it. Because where the issue is now is this: we are focusing on just ourselves, forgetting that what we are trying to protect against is not just us, but generations yet unborn. My God.
Because you build those immunity that you're going to pass on, because you inherited your father and mother's DNA, the protective ability to protect you. In as much as, again, like I said, the environment, identifies how it's expressed. But it's important that we must learn to understand this. And that's why sometimes when I hear those pastors and clergy people and that say the crap that they say, I'm sorry to use that word, but it's out of ignorance, and it's detrimental to their congregation. It's detrimental. I mean, because even the pastor himself or whoever it is inherited those protective antibodies from his great-great-grandparents and from his mother. So if you do that, you're cutting your people short. And if you're cutting your people short out of your ignorance, you're cutting your people short. So which heaven are you going to lead them to? Let's call it spade a spade. Which heaven? When you're cutting them off with your ignorance. So it's better you understand these things. If you don't know, go ask. Seek help. Seek knowledge. The Bible talks so effortlessly about knowledge.
Yeah.
It's important. We must understand this.
Oh my God. When somebody asked a question, said, how can the vaccine protect against the variant? But you've already answered that. You've dealt with it, and I don't want to go back there because there's so much that we are learning.
No, I mean, quickly we'll take it because this is how it is. I told you that, and sometimes a whole lot of things we're learning and we're still going. Yeah. Now, depending on the immune system that you got exposed to from some other viruses that looks like this one. So it gives you, because, I mean, they're all viruses, they have the same genetic codes and uridine and leucine and all those stuff that they have. So it remembers that somebody that looked like this had walked past here. So if I cannot protect you as a whole, at least let me protect part of it. You understand? So that's why it's important. So at least it will still protect you to a large extent, even from genetic, codes that are a little different from the one we have. Because again, they're all still SARS-2. It's just that there's a little bit of variance. So it will still protect you anyways, because the majority, if you take a span of it, it's 100%. Let's say you take a span of the DNA, 100%. Now, those variants that actually change from maybe 2%, 1%, but the whole thing is still, 98% is still the same virus that is protected against. So that 2% is not enough to cause the damage that it should be, at least for now, that we know. Because the virus has not been lasting long to a point where it will no longer cover you until it gets still down to like the 25 to 45% like we have with the flu vaccine. Now, another reason why it's important we must take this, because if I take and you take, or if I take and you don't take, and your cousin do not take, and me and my family and everybody else take, or you all don't take, you know what's going to happen? The virus will jump from you, move to your cousin, pick up new genetic code from your cousin, mix it up, and another person create new strain. That's how new strains come up. They pick up genetic codes from one individual and the other from new strains. That's why it's important that we all must be protected. So as we're protected, those jumping, codes that they pick up from one person to another, or even from animals to animals, will protect you. And that's how it works. And if you, the terms that you need to understand, if you must go back and look, they are called, what do you call it? I'm having a brain block now, just remember.
No, when you remember, just let us know.
Yes, I remember. I gave a talk about it recently, how viruses come up with new strains. I remember. I don't know, I just got a new block because my brain was moving too fast. But no problem. I remember when it comes up. But that's what happens, and that's why we must, protect one another so that everybody will get it, and then the new strains will not begin to form from one another.
Wow. There's an area in UK, Kent, and some other areas after Heathrow, where recently the South African variant came in, and everybody had to stay indoor.
Right.
And they were looking, because now I know why the variant comes in, because what's happened is that it jumps in from one to the other, and then a new strain is created and begins to replicate itself and affect people again. So much.
Right.
Somebody.
In fact, there are two ways for it. I can't just get the term. Where
also, you can check
one virus from another, mix up with another, and create new form, or one virus from one individual mix up with one another in that same individual and create new viruses. I remember the terms, jeez. But I remember the terms. But that's, so that people can go back and read them up and know what it means. Those things are really important.
Now, well, let me tell you more. Those who are just joining us, Dr. Aluya is the current president of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee. Dr. Aluya is also the vice president, Impact Life International. He was the immediate past chair of the Association of Nigerian Physicians in America, AMPAC. and also he was the immediate past president of the New Jersey Medical Association. So we are talking to someone who knows what he's saying here, and he's also an ambassador for peace by the Universal Peace Federation, and currently also the president again. So we're not just going around talking, but we know who we are talking about here and who is answering the question for us. Somebody asked a question, which I will just briefly look at that. He said, is Bill Gates, let me take this brand off now. He said, is Bill Gates an authority in medicine? You know, I can answer that. It's very easy.
Well, I'll tell you this, and we must be very frank. Again, we're on the round table, and we must understand, certain things, and we must, like I said again, one of the biggest issues that we have in our community is that we have talents that are out there. We don't recognize them or celebrate them. We really don't. And what does that mean when I say that? I mean, look, we must be, as bad as it is, until recently, Bill Gates was the champion of the world. People loved him, they respected him and whatever. But when you start talking about, viruses and epidemics and things that are coming up, and people are like, oh, why is he talking about this? Oh, what's he talking about? Then fear come out, and fear begins to come out, because he's telling people things that they don't want to hear. And people get very uncomfortable when you tell them things they don't want to hear, they don't understand, or cannot comprehend. It's everywhere. I mean, Black people are worse, I'm sorry to say, but it's a fact. And I will say categorically that we should be grateful for somebody like Bill Gates. We should be. And I'll give you a reason why. And look at this and go back. In 1988, January 9th, 1988, there's an article on The Economist. And The Economist, I think, is written or something in the UK. And we know the people who own it. Now, what did they say? They said that in the future, 30 years from 1988, that there'll be a new form of transaction where people will buy and sell, especially in developed countries like the US, Germany, they named out Japan, and in a few other countries, poorer countries. And that form of transaction will be formed in a new form of coin, a new form of digital coin. And that coin then was called the Phoenix coin. If you look at that economics in 1988 pattern, look it up, Google it up and see. You see the picture of a bird, the Phoenix bird. They called it, let's say, the Phoenix bird. Let's say the Phoenix bird. And the bird was standing over all the world's currency. And the world currency, like the dollar and the francs, the euro we use now, is called the fiat currency. And we know what happened eventually, where we now have what? Cryptocurrency. This was presented in 1988, and it was written in a foremost what do you call it? Magazine, financial magazine, 1988. But look at what the world is right now. Are we now in the digital currency age, where we have cryptocurrency taking the form? Now, when Bill Gates sat down and looked into the future and took his time and talked with experts, you see, because when Bill Gates talks, people listen. If I get to a point where if I talk, people listen, you begin to hear my voice. A few people, maybe 300, 500, 200 people are listening right now. But because Bill Gates has that voice, when he talks, people listen. How many times do people listen to the scientists? So Bill Gates was sounding off what the scientists were telling us years back, that there's an epidemic coming. It's going to come. There were preambles in the form of SARS. There were preambles in the form of H1N1 that killed a lot of kids. There were preambles in the form of MERS. It's coming. We need to get prepared. When he said that, people who did not understand where he was coming from, what he was saying, and they were all angry or despiseful of him, say, oh, he's with the Antichrist or whatever. I don't give a flying hoot what association, what a cult group he is. Look, he's telling us the fact. When people say stuff, listen. We must listen. Because the information is out there. Just like I said, those 5 things today. Those who will listen and go back and research them. But guess what? When I called it the God complex, maybe 10, 20 years from now, somebody will see this video and say, oh, 30 years ago, Dr. Aluya said this, the God complex, in the form of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and 5G technology. Who knows? Would they call me an antichrist then? Would they? So that's what Bill Gates had done. And we should be grateful that he did that. And people should have listened and woken up. Just like pastors and those who, they're ringing the bell. They've been ringing the bell for 2,000 years. Jesus Christ is coming back. Jesus Christ is coming back, right? They've been ringing the bell. He's going to come. Do we know when he's going to come back? No. So when Bill Gates rang the bell, that epidemics and pandemics are going to come. We didn't know when it was going to come, but it did come. So Jesus Christ will come again? Yes, he will come, but we don't know. So we need to get up. So he's not an authority in medicine, but you know what? He had listened to people who have done medicine, who have worked in the space where he had worked, and listened to them attentively and came up with words and used his platform and his voice to speak. And people need to listen. And that's what it is. So he's not authority, but he's a mouthpiece for those who have authority.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Doctor, another question here. Micronutrients such as vitamin D and C and zinc, they are critical for well-functioning immune system and play a vital role in promoting health and nutritional well-being. How true is this?
I'll say good to that.
Thank you.
Yes, they are. I mean, no doubt. All those things, vitamin D, C. I said something about vitamin D earlier on. With the young man who lives in Africa, moved out, vitamin D was protecting you. And it's one of the reasons why it has protected the black man in Africa from getting and dying so much from COVID-19. I remember when, a whole lot of the big scientists and all those, I'm sorry to say, some of those mad scientists out there who were predicting that 1.6 million people will die in Africa because our infrastructure was not set and we don't have this, we don't have that, and all that. I'll say it this way. For those Nigerians who are there who listen to me, again, we're in the round table. Now God the drive the fly for cow will not get tail. Cow will not get tail. Now God the drive the fly. I'm a full-fledged Nigerian and I'll say it out there. Look, God protect us. I was pissed off when I heard that. I was angry right from the beginning of the COVID. I mean, were they saying the fact? Well, they were saying facts based on what they saw that was on the ground in the African continent and what they felt had happened to Europe. That if Italy, Spain, and all that were going through this, and they have all those infrastructure that they have, what then would happen to Africa? But then guess what? Because your DNA, the original DNA that is African, was set. God has set it up to protect you right from the onset. So that original DNA that was exposed to all the viruses that humanity has ever been exposed to, carried on and protected you till today so that you will not die from this pandemic. And if you look around, all pandemics and epidemics across the globe, it hasn't really done that much damage to the black man. I mean, irrespective of what Ebola or no Ebola would be. You see, quickly it's brought under control. Again, you have specks here and specks there, for those whose memory, the DNA did not remember how to protect them. So yes, the natural food that we eat, the vitamin D and C, really does protect. Now, wow, I'll take vitamin D. Vitamin D has been shown to actually upregulate your innate immune system so that it really does upregulate and balances it in such a way that upsurge, the cytokine upsurge that comes off, that boom, sticks up and shoots off, and your immune system goes haywire, it actually dampens it and keeps it in check. That's the beauty of vitamin D. Just put it on an elemental level. That's what it does. Now, vitamin C, of course, it's been good to help. And vitamin C and zinc been good to help with healing. We saw that when some studies were done in sailors where scurvy, those who traveled and they didn't have, vitamin C-based food, and they were having sores and all that. And that's where the whole study came from. Again, that's the beauty of science. We learn from our mistakes and all the things that we observe and document and do all those things now. And that's why documentation is important. And that's why, again, the black man must learn to document. If it was not written down, it wasn't done. So we, as a people, must have to learn to document. If you have an idea, if you think of something, if you think something is going to protect us or something, write it down. Find a way to get it published. You may not publish in a big book, but publish a small book. Somebody somewhere, sometime, will come across to it, and he'll bring it all out. Now, zinc also helps with healing. Now, the beauty of zinc, what it does to the coronavirus, because again, if I use the cell, the coronavirus attached to the receptor, it passes through what's called an organelle, a microtubule, and from that tubule, which is from the receptor, goes down. It's the organelle, like an arm. Throws down like the intestine. When you eat, it goes down to your stomach. It goes down. So it goes in through those microtubules, and it goes down into the cell. Now, what the vitamin, the zinc does, when it goes down, it actually inhibits the replication. So when it goes down, guess what? The virus needs nutrients within that area to eat, right? If you land in an island that is uninhabited and you're new there, what do? The first thing you do, you look for food. And anything that is around there, you may see the good one, you may see pawpaw, and you think, oh, this pawpaw is good. I don't know it's poisonous, so you eat it. Then because so the virus goes down and it starts looking for food and looking for things to encode and replicate itself. Now, in the presence of zinc goes in, becomes toxic to that virus. So it cannot replicate. That's why zinc is important. Other than the fact that they serve as anti-metabolites. So, all the byproducts that you produce in the body, it helps burn down and challenges them and gets it binded up. We have things that are called ligands. It helps bring all those fighting articles, bring them together and form ligands, and they surround them, so that your body can process them and eliminate them. So yes, zinc has been due. Vitamin K is also important as well. Vitamin K you get from leaves and all that. So they're really very important. That's why eating vegetables and all those things are really important. But critical, again, is exercise. Exercise is so important. People tend to forget that. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, Black people do not exercise well. And what's up, Black people? Like I said, we're the round table, so we can talk like brothers and sisters. So yes, we must begin to learn to exercise. And that's why we begin to see that obesity and diabetes is ramping up in the Black community. Here in the States, we see what has happened here in the United States. I mean, here, I think we constitute, or Blacks constitute about 13% of the population in this country, but we constitute about 42% of people who are on dialysis. It doesn't make sense. And that's because diabetes is ravaging our community. And we begin to see diabetes here in this country, about 33 million, with so many. Africa, which was described as a continent without diabetes. In fact, in the 80s, they said about 800,000 people, estimated will have diabetes. But right now, we have about 21 million. So that's going and counting. Why? Because of the food. We're changing that my grandma and grandpa's good food that we used to eat, the natural food that we eat. Now we're eating Chinese rice, and I'm sorry to say, but look, all those things, Burger King and all that. Those things were alien to us. You understand? Look back and see what Burger King, I'm sorry not to put them down, but it's a sure fact. You understand? There's a limit. As we begin to get more industrialized and change the diet that we eat, those things tend to affect us conclusively. And sometimes they're really detrimental to us. I'll give you something very important. There was a study that I think I read about maybe 10 years ago. They did a study, and they took 10 African Americans, Blacks, and 10 Africans, and they checked their stomach and checked the stomach lining, and the African lining, the stomach villi, the walls was like up and going, and those were, the more curvatures you have in the walls, the more healthy it is. And the healthier they are, the more they absorb more of the nutrients and do well. And they did the same for the African. They're both Black. They both have Black DNA. But again, that's where, like I said, epigenetics, where the environment you live alters how your DNA is expressed. So when they checked that of the African Americans, most of them was a little flattened. It was a low. The curvature was not as good as the African. Now, what they did, they switched the food around, gave the African American or the Western food, and they switched it around. 6 months later, they checked again. The African food that the Africans that ate the Westernized food, their stomach lining now became flattened. Meanwhile, the African American who are now started eating the African food had more increased villi. So these things do happen. The food you eat, and that's what they always say: you are the food that you eat.
Oh my God!
You are what you eat.
I have a comment here. He said, no one has come out to break it down like this for people to understand. Dr. Aluya, Nigerian government will listen to you. Please speak to them. Export your knowledge, your wealth of knowledge and experience to Nigeria. Dr. Aluya.
Well, listen, I'm sure, I'm here and any day, anytime to share my knowledge. I'm a full-blown Nigerian, and I'm proud to be one, even if I live in the United States, I'm an American citizen now, but, you know, home is home. Here is home as well. But I'm here on channels. I've been on channels, a couple of times where they asked me about the vaccine. I'm sure you've seen those videos, what it is about COVID and the vaccines. You know, Channels TV, I've done a couple of interviews and all that. I've done here for our Black community as much, even with the Congressional Black Caucus here in the States. And I've been out there trying to speak to our people on an elemental level so that they understand why it's important that we understand this, embrace it, and accept it.
Wow. Somebody asked a question here. Said, which of the vaccine can you say is the best so far for those of us Nigerian descent in America? That must be somebody asking from America.
I'll tell you. I actually did an interview with our very lovely and great Regina Askia, where, you know, this same question came out in one form. And I said, it's a shame that, again, and I said it, when it comes to Black people, we're usually not prepared for stuff. We do things by, is it crisis management by crisis, not crisis management, management by crisis. Coronaviruses have been out there for about a year. And we talked about the vaccine for a long time coming. And of course, the two vaccines that came out was the Pfizer and the Moderna, right? And were we prepared to handle the cold chain transport system that was needed for the Pfizer and the Moderna? No, we weren't. We were not. I mean, as big and as buoyant and brilliant as Nigerians and the Nigerian government, I'm sorry, we were not ready. So, but thank God, the world and the WHO, you know, were involved in a project. I remember then called the COVAX project. And then it was 153 or 93 countries that were involved. China was not, and the US was not during Trump. And then China saw the need and joined the COVAX program. Of course, because they needed to sell their vaccines anyway, they came up with two vaccines. And America eventually revised that. So the COVAX vaccine program was set up so that poorer countries, a shame they're calling up poor in Nigeria. Part of the poorer country. I mean, we've now become the poverty capital in the world. I mean, it's disgraceful. It hurts so badly that we can begin to put in that same category. But then again, we're here, we're coming. Watch out. So we're coming down, you know, real emphatically and being frank. We were not ready. But thank God we have the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson that can be transported like the other vaccines can be transported, yes. So those are the ones that is good for us. Again, I said it, you know, let's take whatever we have out there. Well, we'll provide it for, we get it. It's going to protect us. I know one of the biggest issues, and that even in your country, that's happening now is the AstraZeneca issue where, you know, 16 countries in Europe, which for some reason was a very bad move. It's all politics and all that. It was a bad move to say, oh, they're going to hold off the AstraZeneca vaccine, you know, as we watch and whatever, you know, the issue of precautions. Because again, politicians, they don't want to lose votes and they don't want to look bad, but without the science backing the whole thing. And unfortunately, I think Macron has said something about, that the efficacy is not as great in people who are 65 years and above. Again, those things tend to, put it down so badly. Europe, 10% or less of the entire Europe has been vaccinated. 10. You understand? Which is sad. And, I think in France, 60% of people do not trust the AstraZeneca vaccine because the word of one person, those things make, and that's why our words are so important, So, but thank God for UK. I think they have over 2 million people vaccinated and 50, they have some people at 60, almost 50% of people vaccinated in the UK, which is great. And then we're here now, I think we're about 12.3% vaccinated. We're going out of 300 million people. So we're going. So in Nigeria, yes, get what you get, what you have, use it and protect yourself. But until then, exercise, eat well, do the, distancing, wear your mask is important. But though in the near future, they're going to revise the distance upon which, you can stay away from one another now. 6 feet, they're going to bring it down to 3 feet for a couple of reasons. We can go into that later, but that's where we are. So take what you get and protect yourself.
There's so many questions. This live stream was supposed to be just like 1 hour, 30 minutes, but Doctor, I caught you today. We've not seen for a long time, so let's take advantage of today.
Right. Utilize it while you have it.
Yeah. One question here said, why was the ethnic minority community affected the most with COVID in the UK and US, but Africa hasn't suffered as much?
Well, you are what you eat, right? And you are what you eat, and your environment, your DNA is expressed in the environment where you live. And I often joke, and I said this: when God created the black man was supposed to be in Africa, not in Europe. Oh, but then again, like I said, we're on the round table. So we're going to talk frankly. You understand? Look, I did say this. We talked about epigenetics, that the environment you live, alters how your DNA is expressed. So and I just showed you about the stomach one, how the structure of your immune system is expressed as well. So, and again, the vitamin D, a lot in Africa, the UVB light, how it affects your immune system, the food that you eat, the natural products and all those things that you eat determines what your immune system look like. Now, when you come over to the Western world, now you have no vitamin D that's protecting you as a black person, because I'll tell you this. When we're growing up in Nigeria, and I remember they say, oh, early morning sun is what's good for you to make your vitamin D. We all laughed and we clapped, and I remember back in the days how many exams I wrote, and I had to write down, early morning sun gives you vitamin D. But when we grew up, like, oops, no, that's for the white man. Because who wrote those books? It was the white people that wrote those things. Same thing for the black man. The black man needs 12 o'clock sun. We need better sun, correct one. You understand? As compared to early morning sun. They said that for the early morning sun, because the more sun that the Caucasians get, increase the risk of melanoma, skin cancer, which we don't get like that. You understand? We get why they get their own on the head and neck, we get our on the foot. Another reason for that, another discussion. But that's why. You understand? So early morning sun. No, we need the bigger sun. So when you now move to temperate area where you don't get sun for a few large number of the months in a year, your vitamin D drops. And that's why I always tell people now, if I have a patient, black or white, or predominantly black, I'll check your vitamin D level. If it's low, I'll give you vitamin D to protect you. You understand? And knock on wood or whatever, I've never lost a patient to COVID. And thank God for that. And I'm grateful for some of the things that God has been able to help me to do. So for those in the UK, now, if you remember, for the African Americans who live here, they left 300, 400, 500 years ago. That's a long time for the environment to alter how their DNA is expressed. So that's why diabetes is higher here, stroke is higher here, high blood pressure is higher here, obesity is higher here. And if you are obese, or morbidly obese, you have a 30% chance of dying from COVID. And those are studies that were out there. So all of these things put together is what is happening here, as compared to Africa, where we have the average age is 19. They don't have the obesity, which is ravishing people here and all that. And if you look at Africa, look at the structure of the people who died from COVID in Africa, and you tell me how many of them had high vitamin D, how many of them were a certain age, how many of them were of the affluent society in those African countries. Now you tell me, because people, it's a shame, are living in Nigeria like they live here, from air-conditioned room to air-conditioned city room, air-conditioned city room, air-conditioned cars to air-conditioned office, air-conditioned office to air-conditioned clubhouse, air-conditioned clubhouse to air-conditioned house. When was the last time they got exposed to the sun? And then obesity sets in, everything. So back in the days where you say, oh, big belly, evidence of good living. No, evidence of good deaths on your way. So you must go out, get vitamin D and exercise, period. So those are the reasons why.
What I would advise everybody listening now
again, what's the kitchen table, right? So we can talk frankly.
Of course. What I would advise everybody listening now to do is this: share this video. I'll leave it there. Share it with other people so that they can listen to it. Knowledge is power, but accurate knowledge is better than half-baked knowledge.
Right.
Knowledge is power. So we need to sit down, listen to this video, bring out the pen and the paper.
Half-baked knowledge is dangerous.
Very dangerous, yeah. Bring out the pen and the paper and make notes so that you can use it for your generation. Because, doctor, you've spoken so many things that not only affect us, but we need to now teach other people. I'm going to tell my son the main thing that I received from here, how he needs to feed, exercise, and so many things. Somebody said something here, CTY music record. I'm sure he was talking about grandma in medical. He said he has always been like that as a kid. He told his grandma he wants to be a doctor and treat her when she's sick. We are proud of Nelson Aluya. Is it grandma in medical store road? Oh, that's good. Amazing. You've answered so many questions, doctor. I'm going to jump some of the questions, like is there some okay, there's one question that I want to take, which is very common. Hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, a treatment for malaria, for lupus erythematosus and rheumatoid arthritis. He said there's been other study as a possible treatment for COVID-19, especially that chloroquine. How true is this?
Well, I mean, chloroquine got a real bad rap. Chloroquine got a real bad rap. It didn't help the fact that Donald Trump, in his what do you call it, in his buoyancy and almost impetuous personality, went around and talked about it. And I told people that if that Trump was walking with Jesus Christ on top of water, people would start hitting Jesus Christ. So that's what it was. The guy people hated anyhow, even if he was saying some of the truth that came out. But in all sincerity, yes, hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine has been used to treat malaria. It's been used to treat lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. The question is this: why is hydroxychloroquine used to treat those things? It's important we know that before we even start talking about whether they're used to treat COVID-19 or not. So hydroxychloroquine has innate anti-inflammatory effects. So it suppresses the immune system from going out of whack. So like I said earlier, when your autoimmune system begins to affect yourself, like in lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, it actually helps dampen that and reduce that inflammation on multiple levels. I don't want to go technical into that, but that's how it does that. So now coming to COVID, I said earlier on when I used the analogy of the receptor, it attaches, it goes through the microtubules. Now inside that tubules, it's a pipe, it's a tube. Now what hydroxychloroquine does, or chloroquine, it actually changes the environment within that tube. For instance, if you eat and the food is going here and you add something that would change the food structure that is coming here or make it more peppery or whatever, changing that, what would you vomit, right? Yeah. So that hydroxychloroquine, the initial, within the tube, that tube, the microtubule that goes on into the cytoplasm, that tubule, what it does is actually changes that acidic nature of that tubule into a base. So when the virus gets there, oops, it likes the acidic environment, but it's now base. Man, I don't like this one. So the virus can no longer proceed. You understand? That's one of the ways it actually does that. Now, when it goes into the cytoplasm, let's say it passes through and makes its way, the hydroxychloroquine again goes down there, changes the environment within which the virus will replicate by altering some of the micro ingredients that the virus needs to replicate itself. And then what it actually still does again is actually help. So, you know, I remember I talked about the zinc. So what the hydroxychloroquine does, it opens up the channels because the virus wants to eat. It needs all the material. Like I said, when you get there, you want to eat. You ravish for food. So what it does is actually opens up the channel to allow all the other things enter, but not so zinc. So the zinc gets into the virus. And again, like I said earlier, the zinc is toxic to the virus. So that's how those things work. Now, we knew all of this because they use it for SARS-1. You understand? So all the study was done in SARS-1, it was done in the MERS, and those some of the studies that were found when those studies were done. Like I said, remember I said when I started that from the genus, COVID is a beta component. They are like alpha, beta, delta, and the gamma. It's of the beta group of the genus of the virus. So they learned all of this and studied it, including how long the immunity will last and all that. But then again, that's where the politics came about. You know, if you have a tablet that will just treat corona quickly and all that, hey, those people who are working so much in pharmaceutical, are they going to lose business? Maybe. You understand? And all the research that's going on, maybe will affect them and, you know, they'll lose money and all that. Yes, that's one aspect of it. But then, you know, they needed more study, just like with the, what do you call it now? Ivermectin. I think one of the studies that were actually put on the Science Journal that showed, I think it was from Bangladesh or so, where they did a study on 75 individuals, gave, you know, ivermectin to a few. It was actually, you know, double-blinded, randomized study, which we really like. And then they did it with doxycycline as well, and did it with doxycycline alone to compare, and then found out that ivermectin actually reduced the amount of virus in the individuals who took, I think it was 5 milligrams of ivermectin twice a day for a certain period of time. So all of those things, they needed, you know, right from the whole way, they needed those studies to be done, hydroxychloroquine and all that. But then again, it's the platform of which we talk. We as Black people, we do not have the platform. We do not control anything. And I'll talk about control and the Black race. We do not control anything. So even if we do all stuff and, you know, we don't have the research, we don't have the money to carry those research and all that. So, but then the information is out there. It's left for us to go on to do that research and how well we can control. Now, one of the drawback of the hydroxychloroquine again is the adverse effect of it. It has a way of accumulating in cells, not just cells, but also in liquids, in fluids within our body. And that's why it's good when it's good for arthritis and the joints. So hydroxychloroquine is used to treat lupus. It's not used to treat lupus. It's actually used to treat the arthritis or the arthritic effect, the damage that those diseases do to the joints. That's what it does. So those damage that those diseases do to the joint, it doesn't use to treat them. It's used to treat the damage it does to the joints, because those immune system goes to those joints and destroy the joint. So what it does, it accumulates those liquids in the joints, and also unfortunately accumulates in the eye. So it changes the fluid within the eye and causes some eye problems as well. So that's why, you know, people are really very cautious about it. So if you're taking hydroxychloroquine, please go see your eye doctor and make sure that it's not affecting your eye as well.
Wow. God, so much, yeah. I'm just enjoying it. I don't want you to stop. I'm going to ask more questions. Dexamethasone.
Well, I'm here.
Dexamethasone. Is it a treatment for all COVID patients? How does this work? Is there
Well,
inflammation?
it's one of the what do you call it, components in the treatment of COVID-19 disease. Again, it's not the virus that kills itself. It's what the virus does to the immune system. It goes in, it ramps up the whole immune system. It makes it go haywire and crazy. And that's where we talk about, the cytokine. The cytokine, and not just the cytokine, there's another component that was talked about again, and most people don't talk about it this much. It's the bradykinin component. It also upregulates not just the cytokine, but before the cytokine is upregulated, it actually upregulates the bradykinin component. And that's why one of the first symptoms you get with COVID when you get is the cough. Because if you upregulate the bradykinin, it triggers a cough reflex. And that's why people who take ACE inhibitors, that's what do you call it, enalapril, captopril, lisinopril, those pril medication. One of the side effects, again, that the adverse reaction they get is cough. They say that other than the angioedema, they get cough. So when they get cough, lasting more than 2 weeks, and you start the medication, look back and see what it is. So it's usually that's what it is. So the COVID vaccine also upregulates that bradykinin. You get the cough component as well as it affects the taste. In fact, the taste, we used to say, it affects the nerves that supply the taste. No, it's not the nerve. It's the receptors that are on that nerves. That's what it affects. So we've come to learn that now. I understand that. That's why, it destroys those receptors. It attaches itself, breaks them. And that's why sometimes you recover from the taste quickly. Sometimes, as much as the taste recovers, it takes a few months, or who knows, up to 6 months, some people have discovered. So what the dexamethasone does, it's a steroid. So what it does, it actually damping that upregulation of the bradykinin, the cytokine surge that happens in individuals with severe COVID disease, so that they don't get sick and die from it.
Wow. One other thing, does drinking the traditional herb agbo protect someone from COVID? I have to ask this because whenever I ask anybody, he said I had these symptoms. The next question is, I've been drinking agbo. I know people who are watching us now might not know the combination, but some herbs put together.
Right. So those, look, we all drank agbo when we were young. Grandma gave me agbo. We did it and it helped. But one of the things, for those who are Nigerians who Google agbo up and all that, one of the things that happens to agbo, Lord have mercy, you can't drink that thing. You see how bitter it is. It's bitter like crazy. It is bitter. So if it's that bitter, and what drug is bitter again that you know?
Chloroquine.
Chloroquine is very bitter, right?
Yeah.
Hydroxychloroquine is bitter. So probably our forefathers knew right from. The problem is they just didn't identify and eliminate, isolate, that's the word. They just didn't isolate the components that is in agbo. You understand? And that's where we have failed. For those of us in Africa, we did not, all the medicines and all the things that we have. We have pawpaw that can reduce your blood pressure, that can reduce your risk of diabetes and all that. Those are all natural stuff. You understand? Have we been able to sit down, look at agbo, put them onto chromatography, identify the different components that are in agbo, so that we can isolate them and begin to use them as medicines? Because that's what the Western world did. That's basically what they did. So you may have agbo with chloroquine inside the combination, but you just drink it, yeah, it helps. Yes, it's agbo that helps. Well, guess what? Probably because you have hydroxychloroquine and the effects that it does well. But one of the things that we've done with agbo, with us, that you just don't drink agbo. What do you do with it? You cover with agbo. You understand? So when you cover with agbo, you cover up with agbo and with your blanket or whatever. What do? You open your mouth, you open your eyes, you inhale, you breathe it in, and it goes down to your lungs. Of course, what does that do? If you have hydrochloroquine there, or all the other chemicals that we don't know, they may actually go there and alter the milieu, that's the environment, in your airways, and alter the milieu of the virus itself. So the virus can no longer proceed. It gets denatured, even in your airways. You understand? And what's the first thing you do? You cough. And when you cough, and studies that came out of Italy right from the beginning showed that when they did the autopsy, showed that people who died from the virus and were really sick had more of the virus in their airways and their lungs than those who really didn't. You understand? So we see, I'll give you an example. Maybe you have 50 million cells of the virus that came into you, right? Because I think with the SARS-1, they actually said that if you cough, right? If you and I are talking now, when I talk, the virus, which we already initially thought were aerosols or whatever, you spray the aerosols, if the speed goes at 25 miles per hour, right? Now, if I cough or shout, if I shout, it goes up to 50 miles an hour. If I cough, that has gone to like 75 miles an hour. That's the speed at which I think I'll stop. But if I sneeze, it goes up to like 200 miles an hour. So that's why it spreads so quickly. And that's why they say we should cover our mouth. Now, when it comes to covering from the COVID SARS-1, we learned that for that one, you need about 1,500 of those component viruses. Once you get it, it affects you and it begins to go and replicate. That's what the study has shown then. With this one, it was so much more because maybe you need only 500 or maybe 200 that gets you and begins to affect you. They begin to take over your lungs. That's where it comes in. But when you wear the agbo and you cover up, if they multiply to 500 million and you cough, you're going to cough out maybe 200 million. Now you have only 50 million left, right? Out of the 50 million, the agbo with the chemicals have denatured 20 million of them. So you have 10 million left. We're at the kitchen table, my brother. You understand? So, we don't do damage 500 million we do. So if you cover up again and do another treatment of the agbo, you're going to cough out more and you're going to denature a lot more. So most likely, that's what really happened. And we found that when we did with the Vicks and the menthol, a lot of people who did that early in the treatment did help. Just like, studies have shown that if you start the hydroxychloroquine early in the treatment of COVID-19, you do better than if everything has gone haywire. It's like the kitchen, how do you say, the chicken is out of the barn. Now you have to start running straight into the chicken town. But when it's still in the barn, you can manage it with hydroxychloroquine. That's basically what it is.
Oh my God. Since we started, and we've had about 1,300 people, 1,004 watching and listening. When you started talking about Agbo, the figure just shut up.
Yes, we are people. We know what we do. We should not discuss who we are because that's what grandma and grandpa have been doing for centuries, and we're here.
Oh my God.
1.3 billion people, not be joke. We're still coming. So.
Yeah. Now, one more question. How did you manage, as the world is battling the COVID-19 pandemic, frontline healthcare workers like yourself, you are amongst the most vulnerable groups at risk of mental health challenges. How did you manage?
Well, that's a very good question. As a matter of fact, it was a question that was asked when I was at Dominion Chapel at RCCG here in Orange, New Jersey. I was invited to come give a talk, and they actually had talked about the health implications and the mental implications of COVID. And we've talked about multiple times. Yesterday, I was on a Zoom as well with some brothers who are African Americans who've done extensive work on mental health in the Black community, as well as other mental health experts who came together on a platform put together by, I think the video is out there, we did that yesterday actually, by a global leadership, global women, African women leadership group, amazing group of women by Esther Ejim. So we did talk. Again, COVID-19 not just have a health impact, an economic impact, a social and cultural impact, and even religious impact. It has also affected mentally a whole lot of us, from the disease burden itself, where people sick, you're really sick, and the trouble. Even before you get the disease, the panic and the uncertainty of the fact that people who you knew got the disease and died. Are you going to be next? or is it anybody else who you know who would get the disease as well, or those who who already got disease and people who died, a lot of people died. You understand? So all that created a whole lot of anxiety, big time, as a matter of fact, as well. Now, look at the economic impact. The economic impact, people lost their jobs. I mean, from the hotel industries to airline to, look, that in itself will cause, the economic burden will cause rise up your anxiety and your social stress and all that. Where's my next meal coming from? Next, what else am I doing? And then look at the lockdown. I mean, can you imagine locking people down? It never happened before in our modern day history, modern life. All of a sudden, mama, papa, everybody, children locked down in the house. You can't go out. The boogeyman is out there right now, and the fear is out there, and people were panicking. So all that just ramped up the anxiety level in everybody, and again, the number of people who died. People have family members, papa, mama, grandma, grandpa who are dead, brothers, cousins, in-laws who are dead. So going to all that funeral, the burial, and all that. So all of those put together has created a whole lot of ramping and unearthing, exposing the innate mental issues that people have, from depression to anxiety, even the adjustment disorder that was there, and unmasking also the neuropsychiatric components of the disease, including schizophrenia, where people who were just managing on their own, taking medication, or those who didn't have medication to take, but no longer cannot afford it because they don't have the money, or because even doctors, your doctor that you used to go see, to check your blood pressure, check everything else, now you can't see the doctor. Most doctors were closed. Offices were closed because even the doctor was afraid himself for his life, especially elderly doctors. They didn't go to work. They closed their office. Nobody knew what was up. So you can imagine if you have asthma, you have chronic medical issue, and you're already panicking about that, and you don't have the doctor to go meet and talk to, that again creates anxiety. And then guess what? You were locked with your spouses at home. Before it was passing out, hi darling, hi on, you go in and out. Now you live with a man like, oops, is this how this guy is? Is this what he looks like? This was not the man I married, because you've been married for 10, 20 years and he's in and out, in and out. Now all of a sudden you're cramped out in the house like, oops, who is this guy? Who is this woman? I saw you don't fat. All of that. So people came to terms with things that they never were put in front of them before, because for one reason or the other, we, rather than facing facts, replaced our facts with things that give us pleasure. And of course, you see the children. Children love to run around and play and all that. But then all of a sudden they're stuck in the house. They can't play. They can't go out. Of course, they'll be driving you crazy, running around the house, jumping from couch to couch, and you can't control them, or having them to wear masks. And these children, they ask questions. What is COVID? Who's there? Why is grandma dead from COVID? I can't, you have no explanation for the things that happen. Most parents love to explain to their children the things that are happening. When you have a situation where you cannot explain to your family or to your children what's happening to our world, is this happening? It's distressing, So all of that put together ramped up everything else. I used to go, a kid with a 10-year-old wants to go see grandma. You can no longer see grandma, And then issue of school as well. You have to sit at home. Look, we were used to structured environment of schooling. For the children, they have to, children, you have 3 or 4 kids in the house, you were using one laptop, we're sharing it. Now, every child has to have a laptop. For here, they provided. For countries where they have no access to it, meaning grandma and grandpa, everybody have to chip in to buy laptops for each child. And now look at the internet. Here, we now have a bundle. In those places, there are no bundles. So you can imagine they have to spend more money creating, access to internet, and that means more money. And you lose your job, and the children have to go to school. So you can imagine how compounding all of this was. So those were the emotional distress that happened. And of course, it created a whole lot of havoc, abuse, disuse, all of these whole terms. And it unearthed a whole lot of underlying, mental issues that was all in our environment and the community.
Wow, 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 wow. Was there a moment that challenged you as a head personnel during this period? Was there any I know they are not challenging every day, but
yeah, yes. When I got the COVID itself, but before that, the biggest fear and concern was when this thing came out. Man, we didn't know what it was. We were throwing everything at it except the kitchen sink. we found ways to, and that's why we went back to innate training and understanding. And thank God for ABU. Kudos there for some of the things I learned back in Nigeria, and then some of the skills and knowledge I acquired on my way here as well. So yes, they were challenging. You can no longer have access to your patients. You have to do it through Zoom. And people didn't know what was happening. What studies were going on, when the vaccine will come out, or how would we go back to normal? And people used to ask me then, Dr. Aluya, what's the future? For how long would we be like this? For how long would we wear masks? I said, look, you most likely will wear masks. This was 2000. I said, by 2023. You begin to start thinking about taking off the mask. 2023. They're like, what? I said, yes. Because look, I used to feel a little anxious and concerned when I do international travels. I see Chinese men wearing masks everywhere. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with these people? Even Michael Jackson there, he told us something. He used to wear masks. People didn't understand what was up. Chinese people wore masks. They wore masks because they know what they have seen. They went through stuff. They lost family members. They've lost people. They've gone through epidemics. So they understand what it feels like. But we had no idea. So now we're faced with it. We've seen this and we understand, look, this is not a joke. So we're all trying to wear masks. Forget those who don't want to wear masks, but that, they do that to their own peril. So those were the challenges. What is the future? What would it look like? And when people are dying in the hospital and the healthcare system, had no answers for them. And the only answer when somebody, come in and, the oxygen drops and the only thing you have to do is intubate them. And it's so funny. I used to, when we're looking, it's crazy. Here, when it was happening in China from November to December, we used to see people walk down on the street and then faint, pass out and then die. We had never seen anything like that before. And I said, this cannot be real. Is this doctor videos or is this for real? Nobody just walks down and die unless you have a heart attack. Or even then, the heart attack will not just kill you, like, drop you down by itself like that. And to make these were young people who were dying like this, So we were like, oh, you know what? This was disturbing. Hold on, let me see. Oh,
no problem.
Yes, so
okay.
I was wondering if it was. Okay, no. I was wondering, well, this is not real. Why would people die? But eventually we came to understand there's an entity, look it up, called happy hypoxia. Happy hypoxia is an entity that eventually, so what happens is, as the COVID vaccine, as the COVID virus begin to affect your lungs, it begins to spread and cause all that ramping of the cytokine. The immune system ramps up and begin to get those blood clots that affects the lungs. And that's why initially we thought it was the virus or causing pneumonia. No, it was not just the pneumonia. It was a shower of blood clots, tiny, tiny blood clots that affects the lungs. That's why the people cannot breathe. So for you and I sitting down right now, our oxygen level on the average, like 97, 97, 98, 100. As we're talking, we're excited and all that. Now, when you go to bed to lie down, the oxygen level, because everything drops, everything. Your heart rate slows down, your brain slows down, everything. Your breathing slows down. You breathe at 18 or 20, and it comes down to like 15. The oxygen level drops down to like 95. Now, for those who smoke and have chronic lung disease, it drops down to like 88. Now, if it drops down, you're carrying 88. That's when they begin to think of giving you oxygen to carry. Now, for those who have coronavirus and affects the lungs with those shower of of blood clots, the oxygen level begins to drop down from 90 to 80 to 70, 65 to 55. It drops down, and they're still walking around. They could still be talking to you. You understand? I had a doctor whose oxygen level dropped down to like 44 to 35, and he was talking until they had to intubate him, because when we see that, the only thing we had is to intubate and safeguard your lungs and safeguard your vital organs. So that's what happy hypoxia was doing, and we didn't understand that. We didn't know this before. So now we know, and that's why, you know, intervening on time and taking those first steps to protect your lungs and keep your oxygen levels up is so paramount in the management of COVID-19.
I think for me, based on all that you said so far, we still just got like about 4 or 5 questions before we end the live stream. Everybody should go and take the vaccine quickly.
Yes.
Honestly, they should go straight, because if somebody is walking on the street, not knowing that there are blood clots happening inside, they will just feel everything is okay until they just fall down.
Right.
And just like you said at the beginning, we don't want to be half-baked people that they will not say, okay, well, this is a black man's disease. Then
right.
All the white people are taking, all the English people and everyone has taken. Only the black person is waiting there saying, I'm not going to take. I don't know how we're going to do this, but I think what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to keep spreading this video until everybody listen and listen well. Was there a moment during the pandemic that you felt proud of what you're doing?
Right? Well, when you save, every day you save life, you're proud to become a doctor. Even if it was a harrowing event, going through medical school, it's like the military. Going through medical school is like going through military school. But yes, every day you save life, it makes you proud. And I got even prouder of the people who work relentlessly on a daily basis, doing research and to make sure that we find a solution to, you know, the pandemic that ravaged our world so badly. Earth was sick at that time. Mother Earth was sick. And thank God we begin to really recover from it. I must commend all those great scientists, doctors and lab scientists and technicians and, you know, genetic coders and all those people who did stuff to ensure that we are here where we are now. We have reports to do this. One of the biggest fear that was had, there was the mRNA technology that came out, was a name some people must have heard of. Catalina Carraco, who's an Hungarian immigrant that came to this country, was working on some of the building blocks of the mRNA technology. And when she actually did bring that up, her intention was to treat metabolic disease, arthritis, and everything else. But then when the whole world, and she was ridiculed. You know, they made fun of her. She said they couldn't even give her tenureship in her university and everything else because they just thought it was impossible, that this was ridiculous and it couldn't work. And initially, she had some problems with it, making it stable enough. And some of the mice she worked with were really sick and they died. But they found out that the uridine component of that RNA was the effect of that, the reason why they were dying. So collaborating again is so important. And when she went to one of these conferences, met a gentleman, I can't remember his name, who they worked together, identify what was in the mRNA that she was working on, and found out it was the uridine, knocked it off with, you know, their genetic coding, and then made it safe. Now, the problem then was to make it stable enough for delivery. Now, they didn't know how to do that, so they had to find a way. Again, collaborating with somebody she met, an individual who spoke in the in the scientific community, where somebody in 1972 wrote about a component, the glycoprotein. And that's why sometimes you hear somebody talk of nanoprotein and all that, where people were talking, oh, nanoprotein is going to, because they hear nanotechnology is going to change your DNA. No, it was nanoprotein. Again, that's why, you know, half big knowledge is dangerous. So, but this technology, how to make it stable, was actually first done in 1972. There's a gentleman, I think Alfred something, who Livingston, I'm not sure now, but he did this work. And when he wrote the article, they made fun of him. They were big, large molecules. And when he wrote about it, people say it's impossible. How would you create a method where large molecules will be injected and then begin to really dissipate and go into the individual? So they made fun of him. He was ridiculed. But then guess what? when these two people met, unsteady, easily degradable, found a method where you can make it steady and safe to inject it, voila. Then they found a way to have it delivered, and that's where the whole world came about. So all this technology, they just didn't wake up to do it. Yeah. It's been work in process. It's been work in progress. And there are actually studies, reports that it was actually used for Zika. If you remember the Zika virus, nobody heard about Zika. You understand? All pregnant women were afraid. They couldn't travel. They couldn't, Zika everywhere. But you don't hear of it anymore because these things were used in managing diseases. So it's not just today. So for those of you who are there, I'm afraid, I don't know. Look, this technology is not just wake up. They've been doing this for a while. And way back, the whole component from 1970, great minds, we must respect them, elevate them, and edify them. So that's what it is.
Doctor, thank you so much. But we still have some few questions, just about 2 or 3. Let's think back to when you were 17 years old.
That's a long time ago.
That's a long time. What would be your advice for 17 years old now? Any 17 years old out there?
Well, I tell people this. Fortunately enough, I knew what I wanted to do when I was 4 years old. I knew what I wanted to do when I was 4 years old. I told my parents, I told everybody, and my dad who was a military officer, was magnanimous enough to understand who I am and what I want. And he was very encouraging to ensuring that I get to, where he paved the way. God bless his soul now. But again, so everything I did then, I did towards heading towards medical school. Everything. The only other thing I knew how to do was play soccer at that time. So it was either soccer or medical school. So, and I remember when I used to go play soccer, God bless my auntie, Sister Grace, she used to like, this boy, you will not read, you will not read. It was just soccer. But then I had a focus. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was working towards it at every time. So, yes, at 17, getting ready to go to, I was getting ready to go into medical school, ABU and all that at that time. And so it was working towards it. But our advice to what I know now, first, identify who you are, period. Know who you are. As a 17-year-old, you're wise enough and big enough to understand what the future holds and what is out there for you. When we were growing up, there was no internet. There was no what we have now. I mean, if you needed to read anything, you have to go to the library, sign the form, and pull on, and then they'll give you the paper. It's all dusty. You have to go through. We don't have that. Everything's in the palm of our hand right now. So the world is in your hand. You can do anything with it. So what do you do? If you're not sure, research, read, look up stuff. And if you're not convinced, then ask somebody who you think you know. You understand? So first, identify yourself. Know what your strengths are and your weaknesses are. Know what resources you have around you. When I mean resources, what time you need to allocate for something. What are the monies you can to achieve what you can? What are the people that surround you that will help you get to where you need to get to? Meaning from your mom and dad, who are they? From your brother, sister, uncle, aunties. And we live in a community society where we have some of these people who are helpful to do that. And then in your environment, look at those who are around you who can help you as well. Then choose your friends. Choose those who are the same wavelength as you. Like they say, like minds congregate together. Birds of the same feather congregates together. So choose the same people who are like minds of you, who want to achieve the same dreams that you are, and select among them, and then choose the good things out of them. But more so, get a mentor. One of the things that we don't have in our environment is a mentorship program. We really don't. That's another lecture on another day. What we have, the African environment, we did have a mentorship culture, but that was destroyed with imperialism and colonization. It was destroyed. And we no longer have that. And we know how long these guys were here. So we no longer have that. What we have now is a guardianship culture. A guardianship meaning I'll take you, I'll show you what to do, but you never surpass me. I'll teach you, I'll show you, but I'll still be the boss. But mentorship is a different. I'll give you all the resources, time, money, intellect. I'll create the environment for you to grow. I'll push you forward so that you grow and even surpass me. That's what mentors do. So you look for a great mentor. And you can have multiple mentors in different areas. In the field you're going to, in the field of looking for resources for money, in the field of intellectual and calming ability to keep you on the grounded. In the mentorship, in the area of social justice, so all of those, you can have multiple mentors. So, but then pick what is best in each and every one of those mentors and create a template for yourself. I also give this analogy. Michael Jackson became one of the best in his field, even the best. But what he did, he sought out all the individuals who had come before him, who were with him in his time, and took steps out of them, from Fred Astaire, from James Brown, to all those people, created a unit that suits him, who he is. Like I always tell my young doctors, you can never practice the way Dr. Aluya practiced. You can only practice the way you can practice, because you only practice based on what your culture and your experience you've lived with all your life that's molded you into who you are. So pick the best out of every of your doctors or your professors or whatever you have now. Create a style for yourself, just like Michael Jackson created a style for himself. So that's how best you can become the most impactful, not just successful, the most impactful human being that you ever be.
Oh my God, doctor. CTY Music said something here. He said, you forgot to say that you always dance to Michael Jackson's song. No wonder you were able to give that.
I know we reach house.
No wonder you were able to give that.
Shout out.
CTY Music, I just be watching. No wonder you were able to now give that analogy. Very, very amazing. Doctor, I know that you are involved in so many charitable works, Yeah, and
that is so sweet. Thank you. I love
in
that.
Jamaica. Yeah,
look at me looking like 17-year-old.
Look at you. That's you there.
Those are my children in. I go to Jamaica every year. I'll tell you why Jamaica, because when I wanted to do, and thank you for bringing up that picture. It really means a whole lot. Why Jamaica? People will say, why not Nigeria? Because look, I wanted to give back and do medical missions. But then I sat back and I asked God, where should I go? I mean, I want to go to Nigeria. I want to go everywhere. But, and I'll tell you the story about the older guy, the guy you see here later. Yeah. I went to find out where I wanted to go, but I just didn't know. So I prayed about it and I left it like that. And I waited, because that's how I do stuff. If I want to do something, I plan towards it, I sit, then I wait on God to show me. He will, because you have to ask purposefully. You have to ask purposefully. You approach God the way you and I are talking now. He's your father. You talk to him. I mean, whether you're Muslim, Christian, those things don't matter. He didn't create those religions. He created humanity. So, but and we so I and then the opportunity came. It's so funny. My dear sister, who I call my Jamaican sister, Sister Lynette Davis. I met her by sheer chance over a phone call, and I didn't know who she was. And then eventually, that's how I started going to Jamaica, and that's where we are. Is I think 1,600 feet above sea level, really high up in the mountains. Over there, they call it country. It's in Bunkers Hill, Clarendon Parish. Bunkers Hill is a village of Bunkers Hill, Clarendon Parish in Jamaica. So we've been going there every year, except for this last year, the year of the COVID. We go there, we built a clinic over there. Again, is giving back to humanity. It doesn't matter where they are. We're giving back and saving lives. So the old man who you see, every year I'm going to miss him. I pray he's still alive. He's 98 years old. And when I first started, he was, I think, just 90. He just turned 90, or 89 or so. So I see him every year, and he comes to meet me. And Pap, he's alone, never had a child. He was married for over 70 years. Then the wife died. At this age, he's still doing his own farm and all that. So I bring a little gift to him every year. As I see him, it's a real pleasure when I see him, and I pray he's still up. I reached out, to inquire about him. And then the baby, of course, and all the students were sitting in front of the school, the Bunker High School, that they created. If you look around, you see they're all wearing their uniforms, and they're very neat. One of the things I give to those Jamaicans, they're really very neat. The principle of cleanliness in less to godliness, they have it. I swear, they have that. I mean, up in the village, wherever they are, you see them clean, the shoes, the socks, always clean, even if they don't have that much money. If you go into their homes, they welcome you with all their hearts, and their house is clean, neat, and thanks to Pastor Faye Sewers, who helped build the school, and that's the daughter of Sister Lynette Davis, who's right there in blue. So it's a great pleasure and an honor to do this every year. Hopefully this year we'll be able to go to Jamaica and continue our work with it. We built a clinic, so we want to continue.
Wow, this is good.
Yeah.
Well, when you're going this time, myself, my ministry, my family will sponsor you as well.
Great, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
We are in. We bring you joy.
Yes, we have not just doctors, we have nurses, we have librarians, who come to rearrange the school for them. We have counselors who counsel, the kids. We have pastors who come pray in church for the families and all that. So we have a whole lot of people. So if anybody who wants to join, look us up. It's Impact Health, Impact Life International. We're out there doing great things up in the country of Jamaica.
No, that's good. I'm going to send you more information so that we can join straight away and get involved in what you're doing. Thank you so much. So much. A final word for someone out there.
Well, I'll tell you this. Final word. Again, I had alluded to the fact that we should not, in 10, 20, 40 years from now, beg that they take their knee off our necks. And I'll say this, that you and I, sitting here, and those who are in their homes watching right now, were the most educated, most informed, and enlightened of any Black person of the Black race walking the surface of the earth right now. So if you and I cannot change our status as it is as Black people now, then who will? If it's not now, then when? And I say this, that we must work hard together. And I talked about collaborating and identify who and where our powers are so that we can put them together to create impact. And that impact is where we get to the global space where we also will dominate like every other race. But for some people who've heard me talk, for us to dominate, we must control 3 M's. And I call it 3 M's. And for the African, I said the 4th M. For any race to dominate, they must control 3 M's. The first M is money. The second M is military. The third M is media. Because you control money. With money, you buy the military to protect your money. And with the media and the money, you can buy media and sell your agenda and sell your race. And that's what everybody's done. If you see the Chinese, what did they do? They went first after the money. And they used the money to buy military to protect themselves. And we see what's happening in Southeast China, the seas, China seas and all that. And now they're trying to buy the military. They're trying to buy media, TikTok, Huawei, and all those things. So you see, they understand that. We as a people must understand it as well. And like I said earlier on, There's an outsider and insider approach. All Black people must come together and have that insider-outsider approach and see those 3 M's that we must begin to learn to control so that we can dominate. But again, before we do that, we must redevelop, I'll say, a culture of mentorship where we begin to identify those in amongst us who have the capacity, or not just the capacity, but the trust to lead us and lead our people. So that all 4 M's, money, military, media, and mentorship will correct. So that as a race, we'll continue to dominate and we can dominate. Because when we do that, then we can settle all the problems of poverty in Africa. We settle the problem of disease, human trafficking, child trafficking, our young boys going across the border and dying in the seas, the corruption that we talk about, and all the strife that's happening to all of Africa. We'll be able to do that just like the Chinese are doing. But we must begin to do that. Take a play role from everybody else who've been successful and done great things as well, to do the things that we are doing so that we can continue to dominate and do great things. Thank you.
Doctor, I want to say thank you so much. Douglas is here, your brother from Germany. He extends his greetings to you. Hello, I can't hear you, Doctor. You've muted yourself.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Douglas
sorry.
is here, your brother in Germany.
Okay. All right.
CK Media, thank you so much. Donald King, thank you. Rana, Rana is here. Thank you so much. Blazes Kitchen, thank you so much. Jennifer Jackson. People have watched us from all over the world, from Germany. Rana is from Germany. Jennifer Jackson, Nigeria. CK Media, Spain. Some people came in from Philippines. Some other people came in from US. Somebody even gave some money. You know, Vivian Shell, thank you so much. They just came in. We have people who sponsor. I want to say thank you so much, Doctor, for everything. And Donald King said, very insightful. You know, my advice to everyone, you know, somebody said, Godak Appraiser said, thank you, my amiable doctor, in whom I'm well pleased. Thank you so much. Somebody came in from Brazil. Thank you so much, doctor. You see, but one thing I always say in church after preaching, I'll tell people, I'll say, take this message to your word. If I hear it, you hear it, and all of us are in this platform, just as you said, doctor, we've known so much, but take this message to your word. You know,
good news. Take the good news.
Yeah.
Take the good news and spread the good news. You know, let us be open. Let our minds be open. Take the vaccine. Now you know better, because now you know better, you must do better. And you must go out and spread the good news so that we can save lives and livelihoods.
Okay. Now, another person from Hafsat Kabia, thank you so much. He said, well done, Dr. Nelson, for opening our eyes to so many medical information. He said, God bless you. Raises Kitchen said, thank you very much, Doctor. God bless you. There's going to be so many people who are going to watch this. Next week, I was going to bring a human resource officer, a young girl who is a business partner in Saudi Aramco. She is in one of the highest oil producing company in the world. But because of this information that we've received today, I'm going to do a live stream of this same recording next week, so that those who have not listened to it can listen to it. I know it's going to be on my YouTube channel. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to do anything. It's over 2 hours, 45 impactful message. Very impactful. Now I can discuss, as a medical doctor now, you know. Raises Kitchen said, you make medicine so easy. And honestly, the way you were teaching it is so easy. But one good thing I took from this place is this. My flu jab is just 40 to 60% able to an immune system, if I should use that. Pardon me. But the COVID vaccine is 70 to 80 to 90, which is even better, far better. Right. Now I'm going to tell you, I'm going for my jab tomorrow. They've sent me a text message. I'm going to register, and I'm having it this week. I have to protect myself, protect my children, and generations yet unborn. Doctor, right. I want to say thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for everything. I've not seen you since 19. I don't know when. Long time. Long time.
But thanks for technology. It made it
Yeah.
possible. We can see each other, you know.
Yeah.
And thank you for the good work you're doing as well. I follow you,
so
and I see the great work you're doing. You, again, like I said, we as a people must take charge and leadership of the individual spaces where you operate, and find solutions to problems that come out of it. And that's the only way you can become impactful. And you've done that, and I must celebrate you and I honor you for doing that. God bless you.
Thank you so much. You've always encouraged me that I need, there was a time you told me, go read radiology. No, I tried, I couldn't. Then I just went in through health and safety. And I want to say thank you so much for the advice, the mentorship, the encouragement. And today I'm so happy. I'm very glad, I'm just left with my PhD. I think I'll go for that later, But, thank you so much for everything. And someone said here, Levin Dean, he said, enjoy following you from forum to forum. Thank you so much. And Jennifer Jackson from Nigeria said, Doctor, thanks for this enlightenment. Reina Unso said, Doctor, thank you for being one of the heroes on this earth. No.
That's so sweet.
Dr. Aluya message so simply because he cares about people.
That's so sweet.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Rezi's Kitchen just said, she put the emoji there. More grace, more power, blessings, and thanks for everything. Doctor, I want to say thank you so much for all that you've shown us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Really it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Extend my greetings to everyone out there. And I'm still waiting for his number. Chris's number. So please.
Okay, yes, you'll get his number.
Family affair. Family affair. Thank you very, very much for the time.
All right.
I'm really grateful. And bye-bye. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye, doctor. Now, I want to say thank you to everyone that has come in today. God bless you so much. And I hope you had a great time. Please go take your vaccine. You've heard so much. There was something I didn't even bring up while doctor was there. He's received so many awards, all this recognition. Now, if you want to get in contact with Dr. Aluya, that's his website, www.nursinaluya.com. He's got a website. You can get in touch with his website. Ask him any question. Just say OG referred you or CV coach referred you as a result of the live stream, and you'll be blessed. I want to say thank you so much, and God bless you. I'll be seeing you again next week. Well, I'll be doing this live stream if possible. Thank you so much, and bye-bye, everyone. God bless you. Have a nice weekend and enjoy the rest.